Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the El Cajon City Council meeting. The meeting is called to order, and I would like to ask our city clerk to call the roll.
All council members are present.
Would you all please stand for me to say the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing after the words for a brief moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the October 22nd, 2019 meeting and the agenda of the November 12th, 2019 meeting in accordance with state law, council, and housing authority policy. We have a couple of items under presentations today. For the first presentation, I would like to invite Kyle Gunstred, Chair of the El Cajon Veterans Commission, to the podium to present the Veteran of the Year Award. Hi, Kyle. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, city officials, and fellow citizens of El Cajon. Every year, the El Cajon Veterans Commission holds its Veteran of the Year. And this year, when I placed a call to George Glover about us nominating him to the Veteran, or being nominated as the Veteran of the Year, his first response was actually, Kylie, it's an honor, but we need to think about other veterans. That's the kind of man George Glover is, and that's exactly why, one of the reasons, many reasons why, he is our El Cajon Veteran of the Year. So with that being said, George, in recognition for your outstanding leadership and service to our community, I'd like to name you the 2019 Veteran of the Year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. George, you want to say a few words?
Just briefly, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here in front of you today. It's an honor to be chosen for this, especially when I look at the other three names, going, wow, starting with number one, Ray Moody, who Chief Petty Officer in the Navy. He fought in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. So he had a threefer. So it's quite an honor. It's quite humbling, and thank you so much to the commission and to all the veterans in the city of El Cajon. It's for all of us. Thanks.
Thanks, George. Congratulations. Next is a presentation for the Insurance Services Office. I'd like to invite Fire Chief Swaney to the podium to share with us about this.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City staff. It's my pleasure to be before you today to have a presentation about our Class 1 rating through the ISO, or Insurance Services Office. But before I bring up the representative from the ISO, I'd like to publicly recognize some of our partners in this. I'd like Captain John Nevin to come forward, and actually the rest of my staff that's here today, to publicly thank them for all their work and their effort that they've put into obtaining this elite status of having a Class 1. There's some other people that aren't here today. We have Harlan Communications, the JPA that we share with them, and then Harlan Training Facility, the JPA we share with them, are a large part of us of being able to obtain this rating. Also, our relationships with the public utilities as far as Helix and Padre Water go. Without all of these components, we would not have this elite rating that we have through the Class 1 rating. So with that, we have Chief Ben Coe, we have Captain John Nevin, Chief Mike Chasen. They're all integral in developing all this and getting all this statistics to the ISO so that they can evaluate us. So I'd like to publicly thank them for their time and their work. So with that, I'll bring up Stephanie Roskansky from the ISO. She has a PowerPoint, and she'll explain exactly what a Class 1 fire department is. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Hi, thanks for coming.
You're welcome. I'm pleased today to congratulate the Heartland Fire District on maintaining their Class 1 status. ISO ratings are done every 5 years. The prior rating was done in 2015, and Class 1 was established at that time. As background, ISO is an advisory organization. We visit fire departments across the country and evaluate them on a set of criteria that I'll list to see how their fire suppression capabilities match up against their peers. It measures fire protection in 40,000 districts across the country. Of those districts, as I'll speed through here, of those districts, only 373 have ever achieved Class 1 rating. That is less than 1% of fire departments or 1% of communities across the entire country. Of those 1%, it's an even smaller percentage of fire departments and communities that are able to maintain that rating over time, as we do these ratings every 5 years. ISO ratings, we look at the communication center, where the 911 calls come into the community. We look at the fire department. We go through training records, personnel records, apparatus maintenance and equipment. We look at water supply, hydrant inspections, fire flow testing. We look at community risk reduction, which is all of the fire prevention, public safety, and fire investigation activities a community is doing in their community. We take all these together, and each item is individually scored. When we look at communication centers, for example, we're looking at who's there staffing the communication center, what is their staffing, what is their training, their certification, continuing education. When we look at the fire department, we're looking at training records, deployment, which is where your stations are located in reference to your populated areas. We're looking at their personnel and what training those personnel have. And we're looking at all the apparatus, the fire engines and the fire trucks throughout the community, and what is their maintenance and testing on those pieces. Finally, we look at fire prevention, public safety, and fire investigation, as I mentioned. This is all the different activities that either the community or the state fire marshal's office is handling for your district. For water supply, we look for inspection records. We look for flow testing of hydrants to make sure that all areas of the system are maintained. And once we compile all of that together, it is a 100-point rating system. And once you achieve 90 points or more, you're into that Class 1 status. Again, less than 1% of all communities ever achieve this. Heartland has achieved it for the second time. It will be effective January 1st, 2020. So we wanted to definitely give the congratulations over to the fire department. Thank you so much. Did you have any questions?
Let me see it. Steve?
So you cruised through one slide there. I think it showed there's only 35 in the state of California.
Yes.
And I would be curious at some point to know how many Class 1s earn it again, repeated. So I have a hunch our Heartland group is even more rare than the Class 1. There must be a subgroup of just some who have repeated that.
Yes, I'd say it's somewhere in the range of 50%, most likely.
So perhaps we're one of 17 in the state of California to maintain
Yes.
an ISO rating, which is phenomenal. Do you happen to know, do insurance companies take this into account when they insure properties and the premiums?
Yes, so currently 14 of the 15 largest insurance companies utilize the ISO rating system. So if you're insured under any of those providers, this is included in either your homeowners or commercial property insurance.
Great news. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate you travel all over the country doing this. Or
I do, yes.
what? How did you get to do this? It's a very interesting job.
I guess that's a great question. I worked in our processing center for a long time, and then I came out here to the field and just naturally stuck to it.
Great. Thanks very much for all your hard work.
Thanks.
Wow, that's like super impressive, huh? Okay. Lastly, we have a proclamation for Small Business Saturday. I would like to invite the representatives from the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Business Partners to approach the podium, and I will read the proclamation. Whereas the City of El Cajon celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our economy and community, small businesses employ nearly 50% of the employees in the private sector of the United States. And whereas increasingly more consumers value the contributions small businesses make in their community, many of whom plan to shop on Small Business Saturday to support small, independently owned retailers or restaurants that they have not been to before or would not have otherwise tried. And whereas nearly 60% of small business owners said Small Business Saturday contributes significantly to their holiday sales each year, and whereas the City of El Cajon supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities, advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Bill Wells, the mayor of the City of El Cajon, together with the City Council, do hereby proclaim the 13th day of November 2019 to be Small Business Saturday in the City of El Cajon, and we further urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. All right. Congratulations. Hey, welcome.
Hey, thank you. My name is Rick Wilson. I'm the President and CEO for the East County Chamber of Commerce. And thank you so much for the proclamation. It is important for Small Business Saturday to be successful, and we highly encourage everyone to shop East County. That's definitely one of our taglines that we say all year long, but especially on November 30th. Please shop Small Business Saturday for sure, and really help our businesses in East County grow. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Priest.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, because really without you, this doesn't happen. There is no P-bid. There is no downtown. I think Bob's been on the council since 1992. Am I correct with my numbers? And I could remember the Union Tribune calling downtown El Cajon looked like bombed out Beirut, I think was the exact quote. And with your partnership with the city and some of the citizens, we were able to turn things around. We brought in jobs. We brought Starbucks and all that stuff. So I really want to thank you, because I really feel we're in a really unique position. I talked to other P-bids around the county because they ask how we do it with such a small staff and get so much done. And I said, we have this wonderful partnership with the City of El Cajon. We're really almost the same organization in some ways. And so I just want to thank you very much for being there. And again, we couldn't do it without you, so thank you very much.
And thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and all of the people that work in the Downtown Partnership. We appreciate all your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Darrell, for taking it over when you did, because it was kind of in a shambles before you were there. And you saved us a lot of money, and you saved the city a lot of useless goings-on after you took over.
I think we went from 19 full-time employees to one,
yeah.
And we actually do twice as much stuff. So I don't know.
Exactly.
That's probably a pretty good ratio.
Yeah, that's a difference of free enterprise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving along. Agenda changes. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, the company that provides our billing service for our sewer announced to us this morning that they are going out of business. And because of the last-minute news, we would like to bring an emergency item to the City Council to discuss that later today with some recommendations. Mr. Foley can walk us through what would need to take place in order for that item to be added to the agenda, since the agenda has already been posted.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. The city can add an item to a posted agenda for a number of reasons, but one that's pertinent here is under subsection B2 of section 54954.2, and that provides that by a 2/3 vote, in other words, 4 of you, because we have 5 members, the city council can determine that there is a need to take immediate action, and the need for action came to the attention of the city council subsequent to the posting of the agenda. As Mr. Mitchell indicated, we just today found out that this contractor is out of business, and so we won't have another meeting until December, and there is, in my view, and I hope your determination, there is a need for immediate action to be taken. So the first procedure is the City Council would have to vote in order to make that finding and place it on the agenda, and then after that you can approve the agenda changes by another vote.
Great. So you let us know at what point we do all that. Should we do that right now?
We should do that right now. First to add the item to the agenda, if you could have a motion and a second and a vote, and by 4/5 vote, find that there is a need to take immediate action under the circumstances.
All right, I'll make a motion to that effect.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
And now, because we're at the agenda changes part, you can now approve the agenda as changed.
I'd like to make a motion to change the agenda as described.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
I have a question. Graham, will people still be able to pay it online as they do now, or do we know any of that yet?
Well, Mr. McClellan, we'd like to address that during the agenda item where we'll give a brief presentation. And Mr. Mayor, unless you direct otherwise, I'd recommend we push this at the end of the council meeting, our last agenda item, unless you want to move it up under
fine.
Administrative items.
It's fine. I'll take your recommendation.
Apologize. I should note that copies of the memorandum and the proposed resolution are available for anybody in the public to view.
Okay. We are now consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you wish to pull any of the consent items? Staff?
No, sir.
Angela, do we have any speaker cards for consent items?
No card, sir.
I'd like to make a motion then to approve consent items.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
That brings us to public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, City Council and Housing Authority members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, do we have any cards under public comment?
Yes, sir. We have 4 speakers. The first one is Jim Sirigliano.
Jim, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, staff. I'm just going to defer for a second. The group that is here for agenda items 15 and 16, I'm happy to see them here because many of them are the front line on this vaping issue, and I'm glad they're going to be heard today. Secondly, I just want to thank David Chenoweth last time. He made a reference to the Code of Ethics about transparency again. And when I'm speaking about Forms 700 and 460, I'm bringing this up again because, like he said, there's a conflict of interest and indifference response. But Councilman Goebel did send me an email, and I'd like to address that just for a moment, Mr. Goebel. I didn't answer you because most of what you sent to me I was well aware of, okay? However, there's one thing I was in agreement with you on, is that people can actually call into the city clerk and request these forms, okay? And a lot of people aren't aware of them, right now. But being with next year coming up, when people are declaring what they're running for, I'm willing to help anybody out with this here because that is one way of going about it. And even to the Fair Political Practices Commission, there are other avenues for us to take about this here. So again, I'm going to say I believe that in full transparency, along with the Code of Ethics, this should be on the city's webpage, this information, okay? Excuse me. And then just going forward and maybe lighten things up a little bit, I was just speaking with someone the other day about some of the candidates for the Democratic presidency. And Mr. Yang had an organization that he termed MASH, and MASH stood for Make Americans, hold on a second, Make Americans Speak more. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, I was thinking about changing it to METH for El Cajon. But then when I realized what the initials were, I just kiboshed that whole thing. Okay. But, and then again, we all share something in common with the holidays coming up here, So one thing we all have in common is family and things like this here. And it's unfortunate because that's the way it should be all the time, okay? This coming together. And again, just to quote Elijah Cummings again, we're better than this, okay? And I'm going to keep plugging away because next year is a very important election. And we still need a woman on this council also for a different perspective. Whether you agree or don't disagree, that's how I feel, okay? And if anyone has any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Dolores Landers.
Hello, welcome.
Mayor Wells, council members, staff.
Ma'am, would you mind pulling it down a little so we hear
Sure.
you? Yeah, please.
This is about transparency with the city of El Cajon. In July, I sent a letter to the city of El Cajon regarding the streets, the potholes that were not being repaired. This has gone back for 30 years, apparently. I fell in 2014 after back surgery. And Mayor Wells, I have an email that I sent to you as to when is this all getting fixed. Our neighbors received a notice from the city of El Cajon on October 31st that on November 5th through November 8th, they were going to do Helix View Drive. There was the time, 7 to 5 p.m. There was the date, 11/5 through 11/8. And there was the notice that if your cars are there, we will tow them. Thankfully, one of our neighbors who lives at 1390 offered the neighborhood a place to park their excess cars because their lot is surrounded by all of us neighbors. I sent an email because these people had the right to transparency. We can't go out of Midway Drive now because they were going to do Midway Drive. And they were doing Pine Drive. These people had to go to work, take their children to school, and there was no communication, no transparency. Christian Felix, who was the project engineer, was wonderful. His crew was wonderful. The paving company, there was a resolution in 1990, 30 years ago, that Helix View Drive was a narrow cul-de-sac. Helix View Drive could not have an aerial fire truck go up there because of the situation, the round curves. Somebody should have prepared the paving company that you can't bring a big binding truck with conveyor belts up the street with a dump truck behind. There are low power lines, and they had to call in for smaller trucks. You have a plat map in your planning department that shows the land of Helix View Drive and all the surrounding ones. I suggest next time you give the people who elect you credit for trying to figure out what was done. And I want to add another note. I know my time is up. For those who feel that the neighbors in the city, the neighbors on Helix View Drive have not called this city and to complained, whether it was about the streets or a chop shop or whatever, or cars parked in a no parking zone. Let me tell you, they have called. And I have documentation in an email that apparently I was the only one who did. So, in the words of Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman, I'm just getting started. So, more transparency.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonnie Price.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hello. I noted that at the bottom of the agenda for today, waste management is going to be discussed in a closed session for negotiations for rental of buildings. And I recall that when Graham Mitchell said that under his watch there would be competitive bidding for everything, I'm wondering why, since there hasn't been a contract approved for waste management, why this discussion of leasing of buildings before the new contract is signed. I know that there are people who are very upset by this because it came across my email under neighborhood, and people have called EDCO to get different prices, and EDCO has told them point blank that they are not allowed to pick up anything in El Cajon because waste management has a monopoly. For older people, this is really hard because they cannot afford to pay what the new prices are that have been reported on email. So I urge you to let people know that competitive bidding is the way you will go, and that all purveyors of trash pickup will be heard, and their opportunities at lower prices be considered by the City Council.
Just so you know, there will be competitive bidding for the trash hauling contract. And the reason we can't have more than one trash hauler in the city is that if we had 3 different trash haulers, my house might be one waste management, his house might be EDCO, and his house might be Republic. So instead of having one set of giant trucks coming down your street at 6 in the morning to pick up trash, you would have 3 throughout the week, which is really difficult, hard on the streets, and costs a lot more money to keep the streets repaired. So most small cities only have one carrier that's given the contract at a time. It's pretty common.
Well, evidently, the word did not get out to EDCO and other trash haulers that they would be able to bid and get a fair hearing.
Oh, they're definitely going to bid. But we're not there yet. What you're looking at is the use of a building. It's completely different than the trash hauling contract.
Yes, I remember when Graham mentioned what I said earlier, that there'd be competitive bidding for everything. Every person on City Council except one was beside himself and saying, oh, what are we going to do about buildings? It was if, oh my goodness, we're going to have a competitive bidding situation for waste management. It was really quite pronounced. I recall it. And so I thanked everybody who was in the competitive bidding on the staff for what they did, because that's the only way people are going to get a fair price.
Okay, like I said, there is going to be a competitive bid, so thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I can provide the council an update.
Sure.
The RFP is currently on the street right now, and so we do it through a program called Planet Bid, and part of that is companies register and actually download it, and I can assure you that we have at least 4 companies, and EDCO happens to be one of them.
All right, thanks.
Our last speaker is Ruth Thornton.
Hi, Ruth. How are you?
Good afternoon. I have several things, actually, that I would like to say. Happy 117th anniversary to the city of El Cajon.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've been noticing that the homeless are getting thicker and thicker in my area. I've seen a lot of them at Washington and Magnolia and Avocado and Chase. And I'm thinking, we're coming into winter. Is there a plan with the city? I haven't heard of anything. I would like to hear more on that. I do think that the East County Transitional Living Center does wonderful work. And I would encourage the council to continue giving money to them and even increase the money that they give to them, because they do good work and they have a good success rate. And let's support them in every way that we can. My women's club supports them, and they've done good things. They really have. Mother Goose Parade is coming up, and I hope everyone here will go this year. I went last year, and I had a lot of fun. I hadn't been in probably 25 years, but it was fun, and it was a good parade. Also, yesterday, the Veterans Day ceremony was great. It was very well done, and the veterans who were honored really appreciated it. Sitting in the audience, I could see those veterans, and a lot of them teared up for being honored. So I hope that, I think this was the 7th time that you've done it. I hope it will continue and maybe have a little more advertising about it. I mean, I knew it was coming up, so I looked for the details. But I don't think everyone knew that it was going to happen. The flags on Main Street were great, and I went to the Alley Cats also, and I didn't think it was as well attended as it had been the year before, and I enjoyed it. It was nice. However, the alley was dirty. And I don't know whether that's up to the business owners or the city of El Cajon, but maybe next year, before that date, the city could go through there and do a little bit of cleanup. That would be appreciated. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, there are no written communications on today's agenda. We are now at public hearings. Item 13 is for delinquent refuse charges, and I will ask our staff to tell us about this.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Dirk Epperson, Director of Public Works with the City of El Cajon. It's my pleasure to bring before you today this item. Every 3 months or so, we have to reconcile outstanding delinquent charges. These are accounts where people have not paid on their refuse or trash collection, and so at this time we bring before you an item with a recommendation, and that recommendation is to adopt the resolution confirming the list of property owners as delinquent and authorizing the city clerk to record the amount owed as a lien on the property. As of this morning, when we got our latest data, we had 583 notices sent. That was about $82,000 in delinquencies. Since we sent that out, we had 201 respond, and so that brought our number down to 382, as I said, as of this morning. So 382 still outstanding, which is pretty good. We got 201 that paid up, and so that current lien balance is $55,266.53, and so that is my report for today.
Thanks, Dirk. Appreciate that. Council, any questions? The public hearing is now open. Angela, do we have any speaker cards?
No cards, sir.
Then I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Somebody would like to make a motion?
Adopt the next resolution in order confirming the list of property owners as delinquent on their payment of their mandatory trash service bills.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Continuing with public hearings, item 14 is for delinquent sewer service, and I will ask Dirk to come back and see if he can top the excitement of his last report with this one.
Well, I got to tell you, this is about sewer now, and so it's a lot more exciting. This one, we started out with 875 delinquent sewer charges. That total 169,000, or just over that. And so since we sent that out, we had 350 people respond and pay their bill. That's great. Okay, am I making this exciting enough? I'm just checking. So as of this morning, we have 525 outstanding delinquent accounts, totaling 134,000, and if you add all the administrative fees onto that that we have to process through the county for this action, that's $149,000 worth of outstanding liens as of this morning. So is our recommendation to adopt the next resolution, accepting the list and authorizing the city clerk to record the amounts as a lien on the property and forward a list to the county tax assessor for billing on the next property tax bill.
Well done, Dirk.
Thank you.
Any questions? No. Public hearing is now open. Angela, do you have any speaker cards?
No cards, sir.
Make a motion then to close public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Somebody like to make a motion?
Adopt the next resolution in order confirming the list of property owners as delinquent in the payment of their mandatory sewer service bills.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
We have several administrative reports on today's agenda. Item 15 is an update on electronic vapor devices and products. And I would ask our staff to tell us about this.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, if we can bring up the presentation. Staff. While they're doing that, I'll just speak a little. At the October 8th meeting, City Council meeting, the City Council heard a presentation about the city's tobacco retailer license program. One of the things that was discussed was e-cigarettes and vaping, and the City Council gave staff some direction after hearing a lot of public comment about vaping and about e-cigarettes. Staff has prepared an agenda item and has provided some updates in that agenda report about some updates from the federal government. And frankly, the updates in the agenda report are actually already old news. And so I'll update the City Council on some of the latest information from the CDC. It also included some of the regulations that other cities in the state of California have been implementing. It did include with it 2 resolutions from our local public school districts encouraging the City Council to consider some sort of regulation over electronic vaping devices and or flavored vaping product. The agenda item also includes a correction from the meeting. As you recall, there was some discussion about whether the federal government regulates the vaping industry or e-cigarettes, and while they have the authority to regulate, they currently do not have a regulatory scheme in place that's about to go into effect in spring of 2020. At that time, it would be appropriate to say that there is regulation, but right now there is really no heavy regulation as we see other industries being regulated. So I wanted to come back and update the council on some of the new information that staff's been provided from the CDC. There we go. So the agenda report includes information from the previous week, and the CDC updates its website every Thursday. So the agenda report was actually published or had to go for publishing before we had the latest information. So this is some new information. A little over 2,000 cases of lung injuries and 39 deaths relating to e-cigarettes or vaping products. That's the latest figure. The latest has been there is new information that there is vitamin E acetate in 100% of the samples that have been found in cases that the CDC has been studying. And also, there's 82% of the cases of illness or death, there has been THC found in those. And so that's a bit of concern to staff. If we can go to the next slide. This is the website that the CDC publishes, and it's very helpful to staff. We can go to the next slide. There is a section called For the Public, What You Need to Know, and this is updated regularly. And this is where staff derived most of its information from. If we go to the next slide. One of the things that is part of this portion of the website is a list of recommendations. And there's a couple recommendations that we wanted to point out. One is that vaping product that has THC is recommended that the public not use those products. The CDC recommends that products that are off the street or that have been modified or are purchased through the black market not be utilized. And because it's still relatively unknown of all the potential factors that have gone into the illnesses, despite the recent revelation about vitamin E acetate, the CDC says to be safe, you should consider refraining from the use of vaping or e-cigarettes. One of the things, if we can go to the next slide, one of the things that we've been doing is discussing this with our local school districts. And one of the things that they've have expressed concern is a lot of the devices that our students, our youth are using to disguise vaping devices as things that you or I may have as our normal business equipment, or in their case, school equipment. This is a Juul vaping device that is hidden in a sleeve that makes it look like it's a USB port. Next slide. The next slide. The challenge is that there are new devices coming about all the time, and the Grossmont Union High School District informed us of two different products that they're seeing exploding in the schools. One is a hoodie that has drawstrings that are actually tubes that you can use for vaping. Go to the next slide. And also a watch that looks like an Apple Watch that actually comes off and you can vape out of that watch. If we go to the next slide. Next slide. There's a recent a phone cover for an iPhone that looks like it is a phone cover case, but it can be used as a vaping device. And next slide. And key fobs that also, or a fob or a device that looks like a key fob. The challenge that we are discovering, next slide, is that there's new products coming up all the time, and we don't know what that next new product is going to be. I had a chance to visit some vaping stores recently, and I did not see any of these devices at those stores. I think a lot of these are actually being purchased online or through the black market, and so I thought the council should be aware of that. So that's staff's report at this time. We're here to take any feedback, any direction from the council. At this time, staff would recommend that that no additional action be taken from this report. That concludes our report.
Okay, council, any comments or questions? Bob?
Yeah, I was reading the paper this morning, I believe, and it said that there was a dual lung transplant because of vaping, and somebody had been vaping and they had to have a dual lung transplant. So it's a very dangerous thing to something new. And I guess when cigarettes were first invented and tobacco was first being used, I guess they had problems. They just didn't talk about it then because people died a lot earlier anyway. And they didn't mention that they died from tobacco or smoking.
I've done a little study on this. Just the people that are sick and are dying are the people that are vaping a non-regulated product, a black market product that puts THC and vitamin E acetate. Oh. So the vitamin E gets liquefied, and then when it gets in the lungs, it solidifies like bacon grease. Oh. And that's what's causing the people problem. So these are all illegal products.
Gary.
You mentioned non-regulated. I thought they aren't regulated at all.
So it's my understanding that the federal government has regulatory authority, but the schemes or the plans of how they're going to regulate have not yet been finalized. So the federal government's working on that. Once that's done, there will be regulation. I mean, you'll never see FDA approved like you do on meat, right? But there will be inspection, regulation, and some standards that these companies will have to go through. But you're exactly right, Mr. Kendrick. At this point, there is no government regulation.
Yeah. What concerns me the most is the number of kids. I think I just read it was about 27% of high school students are now vaping. As far as tobacco goes, about 11% of the population uses tobacco in California. And we've got a group of kids where we have 27%, vaping. They're getting hooked on nicotine at an early age, and they'll probably be slaves to that for the rest of their lives. So we're going to have a huge part of the population, as they become adults, they're going to be already addicted to nicotine. And the CDC tells us that 50% of smokers will die as a direct result of using tobacco or from a tobacco-related disease. So what I'm trying to do here is stop the kids from using this product. And I think maybe the biggest bang for the buck that we could get right now is have some sort of ordinance where we could ban the sale of, let's say, the fake Apple Watches that are vaping devices and the vaping devices that look like USBs, because the only reason you'd have something like that is to trick the parents and to trick the teachers. And we've got two school districts. One is an elementary school district saying this is a real problem. These are, elementary school district is kindergarten through 8th grade. What are we doing having 8th graders getting hooked on nicotine? If they're over 21, that's their business, but they don't have the capacity to make an informed decision when they're 12 years old. So my question to the city attorney is, would we be able to craft some sort of ordinance that identifies these devices that don't look like e-smoking devices? Why in the world would an adult buy a hoodie that has a string on it they can use to smoke an e-cigarette? It doesn't make any sense at all. The purpose is to overcome the scrutiny that the parent or the teachers may have on that child and get them addicted. And these people are profiting from the suffering of our children. I don't want this to happen. I think that we, as a council, have a duty to protect the citizens, and the citizens that need the most protection are the children. There's no good reason an adult needs to buy something that looks like a USB device.
Well, to answer your question, there may be a way to possibly. It's possible that we could craft something by the way of ordinance, if that's the council's desire. We'd have to look very carefully how we craft it so it's not ambiguous, it's not vague, it's clear to the vendors of what they can or cannot sell from their stores. But we certainly, if that's the council's desire, we'll take a look at that and see if we can put something together.
The other issue here is that the county is now on the verge of passing an ordinance that would ban all vaping devices and ban all flavored vaping pods that the children tend to use. And I'm concerned that we will be an island within the county where all the kids from the unincorporated area come to get their vaping devices. But I think what's important to me, maybe we can have a compromise here, that we ban the stuff that's abused most by the kids, and adults really don't need to have them if they want to use a vaping device. And that's a USB and anything that looks like something that's not, and it can be used for e-cigarette smoking.
Did you want to have some more discussion first, or do you want
Yeah.
to make some kind of a motion?
Well, I'd like to see what my fellow council members think.
Mr. Mayor, we do have 14 speakers on this item, just so you know. So at some point, you probably want to address them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Everybody comfortable with that? We do the. Bob, do you want to say?
I was going to say maybe we ought to ban the things that aren't normal vaping devices. Just like a vaping thing, and all of the other things that they were mentioned, or any new ones that would come on, they would be banned in the city of El Cajon.
Let's hear from the public.
I would like to hear the public's position on that compromise.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and hear from the public on this one.
The first speaker is Molly Sylvester.
Hi, Molly.
Hi, how are you? Can I ask you a question really quick? Mayor, we would like to address agenda items 15 and 16. Would you like us to do that together or separately?
We really should do that at the time that the.
Yeah, I would suggest you keep them separate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just for a proper procedure.
Fantastic. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Molly Sylvester. I'm the owner of Vape in the 619. Over the last few years, I've had the privilege of working with several branches of government, such as this council, to assist in enacting reasonable legislation and regulations for the vape industry. Through these advocacy efforts, a network of my peers, along with consumers, had given birth to the creation of Communities for Safer Vaping, which is a chapter of the Neighborhood Marketing Association. I'm proud to be standing here as the chairwoman and spokeswoman for CSV. Our mission is to work to educate, strengthen, and advocate for the communities that we serve. Our vision is to accelerate the transition of the world from traditional tobacco to harm-reducing alternatives. To achieve these objectives, we pledge to our communities a contract to which all our members will abide. Our contract to our community is that our members of the CSV, a chapter of the Neighborhood Marketing Association, are committed to establishing and maintaining ethical, transparent, and effective practices, which are youth prevention, consumer safety and education, product safety standards, standards for better business practices, and providing data and science. Our first campaign is under 21, ? No tobacco, no vape, no way. Followed underneath by RESPECT, which is Retailers Pledge Effective Control of Tobacco and Vape. I want to personally thank Graham Mitchell for reaching out, visiting Vape in the 619, and using it as a resource to further investigate and educate himself on the issues at hand. Additionally, I would like to extend our gratitude to Councilman Goebel, Councilman Ortiz, and Mayor Wells for taking their time to meet with us personally. We look forward to a continued collaborative efforts between the City of El Cajon and CSV to protect our youth and strengthen our community. And if I may speak to the compromise, I am all in favor. The hoodies, from what I understand, I did some research because I'd never seen it before going up to the LA hearing. I guess the cannabis industry is the ones that actually kind of created that, and they're available online. I've never seen them in a vape store, nor have I ever carried them. I don't carry the watch. I don't carry Juuls, which are the USB type products. And I believe it would be a very challenging compromise to make it clear to us what we can carry and what we can't. But I'm available as a resource in that area. And I'm here to help in any way that I can. Keeping it out of the hands of youth is our number one priority, as well as letting people know where the illness is coming from, which is the illicit THC products.
Yes, sir.
Molly, thank you for coming. My question for you is, would you be in favor of an ordinance that banned the USB-looking devices of all kinds? Because I see them for 99 cents at the 7-Eleven by my house.
Wow. I I had no idea they were that cheap. I would be. I don't know any other device that looks, I maybe know 2 or 3 different types of devices that look similar to a Juul, that look like a USB. So yes, I would be in favor of that.
So you would be in favor of the compromise as I described
Absolutely.
it? Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Okay.
Would you be interested in eliminating nicotine from vaping?
No.
That just hooks them on the same thing as cigarettes.
Non-nicotine is available. You can get vape juice and zero nicotine, but products such as Juul do not offer that option.
Well, do you sell that option with nicotine?
Yes, I sell the e-liquid that I carry has the option to titrate down to zero nicotine and offer the consumer an opportunity to get off vaping altogether. But Juul offers 50 nicotine, and occasionally you can find a 30 nic. It's not easy to find. And in our products, our most common nicotine level that we sell is 3. 53.
But there's a reason they offer nicotine. It's like
There is. It's a very high concentration that's similar to someone who is a heavy smoker. It's a tighter draw. So it allows them to simulate a cigarette more so than some of the other vape products that are available. And the problem with the youth is that, like when we were kids and we'd hotbox a cigarette and get the lightheaded and buzzness from it, that happens with the Juuls when they hit it back to back to back. You get a real lightheadedness from that, and it's not designed to be vaped that way. It's designed to take a couple of hits, put it down, go about your day, and come back to it. So there is a purpose for it. You're absolutely correct, if it's used properly.
I mean, what I'm getting at is that purpose is to help people find an alternative to cigarettes that don't have the same carcinogens that cigarettes have.
Correct. Yes. It doesn't have all the biomarkers that you can find.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that the CDC doesn't accept e-cigarettes as a smoking cessation device, and I don't think it's fair to say that there are no carcinogens in e-cigarettes. That's unknown.
There's a study by Professor David Abrams, who is a professor at NYU that teaches public health. I would love to share that video with you. It's a 7-minute video, and he does talk about that and address it directly, and there are studies on that. And I would be glad to email that to you if you would like to see that.
Okay.
So.
All right, well, we've got quite a few people to get to, so let's move to the thank you very much.
I'm supposed to say the names. I'm turning in statements from 2 of the members that weren't able to be here, Richard Hobart and Alex Maritano.
All right, thank you.
Ramon Mansour.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members.
Thank you.
My name is Ramon Mansour, and I am an El Cajon resident and business owner. I am the co-chairman of Communities for Safer Vaping, a chapter of the NMA. I'd first like to thank the city manager for clarifying that the recent health scare was due to vitamin E acetate, and that was found in THC cartridges. And no products sold in the retail stores have anything that include vitamin E acetate, so just to be clear. I understand that the school districts want to ban sale of vapes in El Cajon. I share their concern. I truly believe their position is valid, but banning vape in retail is not the solution. We are already seeing other cities do it and states and moving forward with bans, but it's evident that the result is not good. I see an increase in cigarette sales. You see lawsuits to local governments and a potential to ignite online sales and increase in demand for black market products. And we have yet to see any statistics that a ban has shown a decrease in youth vaping. Vaping is not perfect. We know that. But we can work together to make it better. We should make retailers part of the solution. Communities for Safer Vaping can help. Many of us got into the vape industry because we witnessed its power in turning people away from cigarettes. We were and are still thrilled about being in a business that we feel helps people. Somehow we went from being proud business owners to becoming villains in the eyes of public officials, schools, and general public. It's been extremely confusing, embarrassing, and heartbreaking. Our community has been misinformed as to the true culprit of the recent health scare, and our industry has already paid a tremendous price. CSV is a group of vape experts, business owners, and advocates believe that we are a needed weapon against traditional tobacco. It is our goal to transition the world from traditional tobacco. That's what we want to do. I invite the council to use our organization as a resource to the city and serving the community. We are willing and excited to help. I would do anything to help my community. I really would. A ban will do a lot of damage in our city. I encourage you to not lead the community towards cigarettes, but allow our community to be safe and healthy through responsible and reasonable legislation. To address the hoodies and the things that conceal, it is true. The THC, companies and brands, they use items like that conceal. That was the first thing that they came out with years ago, which is any way to conceal marijuana products so that they can go into bars or they can go into clubs or they can go into places, that wouldn't want THC products in there, and they can able to conceal it, and it became very popular. And THC and the e-cigarette category are similar because they are vaping products, and so as a result, kids have used those products to conceal at schools. It became a problem. I do recognize it as a problem. I would agree that we can ban something or anything that conceals electronic cigarettes, but I agree with Bill Wells. If you're trying to ban a particular product, let's say that happens to look like a USB, the problem is those products are high in concentrate in nicotine, but those products are high because they are needed. Really heavy smokers, the ones that are really, if you're smoking a couple of cigarettes a day is one thing, but 2-3 packs. Oh, sorry, I was just trying to address that concern. Those high nicotine products are needed for those heavy smokers, so that's why they have a place in the market today. But communities of safer vaping is here to help in maybe keeping our members or retailers away from carrying anything that conceals. We can do our part.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Question.
So then would you agree on banning the devices the kids abuse the most, which are the USB-looking devices? As the compromises
like I said,
described?
Yeah. If you were to ban those particular products that are high, so these are small products that are high in nicotine, right? What happens is you got real smokers are going to pay the price. They go to those things because they need those. They need that high nicotine to transition. They happen to be small because high nicotine products needs a small battery, and those small batteries happen to be small. They're concealable.
They don't look like the regular ones that. They have to look like a USB to get high nicotine.
No, it's not that they have to look like so. All those brands that look like a cigarette, those early years when vape came out, all brands look like a cigarette, right? They just happen to be electronic. Those all phased out. No companies sell those products. The vapors in general don't want to look like that they're using a cigarette, right? If you're vaping a product and you like to vape, you don't want to look like around that you're smoking a cigarette. So therefore, companies transitioned away from that to more modern-looking products, and therefore they don't look like cigarettes. Now, I totally agree. If there's products that are intended to conceal, totally agree that we would do away with those products. But,
You don't think the USB is intended to conceal?
If a product is placed inside of something that will make it look like a USB, I agree with you there. But If you're talking in particular a jewel that happens to look like a USB, if you want to maybe have the companies change their design to make it not look like a USB, but that picture that is shown up there was a jewel device or something like that was inserted into something that looks like a USB product, right? Graham, you agree with that?
That's correct. The jewel, if we could go, I don't know if you can go back, staff, but there's a jewel device which you'll see is a longer, thinner device, and then there's this sleeve that it was in. That's the disguising element, not the jewel itself, but it's the sleeve that it's in that looks disguising. Although a jewel looks like a USB even without the sleeve too. So,
all right, thank you.
Thank you. They happen to be small with small batteries.
What kind of store do you have? Is it liquor store or market or what?
Well, my family owns multiple businesses. We are in wholesale and retail.
Okay, thank you.
There we go.
James Mitchell.
Good afternoon, Councilman. My name is James Mitchell. I'm the owner of Vapor Invasion, and I proudly represent the Communities for Safer Vaping as their vice chair. CSV is a chapter of the Neighborhood Market Association, and today I'm here to speak on behalf of the Executive Board and the President of NMA. It is imperative to make laws based on fact and solution-oriented. The application of these laws needs to show a positive impact and provide a solution to the issue that it is based upon. The measure that Mr. Councilman Kendrick wants this council to take will not be effective in addressing youth access. Instead, it will lead the community, including youth, at risk of acquiring products that are not registered, that are counterfeit and illegitimate, and potentially tainted with illegal substances. They will go on to purchase these products without needing to verify their age, acquire products that may be counterfeit or tainted, which will expose them to health risks. We will see the same public health crisis that we are currently seeing in the illicit black market THC sales of THC cartridges. We don't want our community to be exposed to these unintended consequences that a ban on vape products would promote. The front line of youth prevention is your law-abiding retailers. In addition, the products retailers provide consumers with have complied with FDA requirements thus far, which include registration of all ingredients in e-liquids, regulation of bottles by having general certificates of conformity, and label regulations, which the FDA requires that all manufacturers do not utilize any child-appealing labeling and require nicotine warnings on the labels. We strongly encourage you to take no further action on this proposed ordinance Councilmember Kendrick has put forth. This ordinance will have a negative impact on local businesses and will create additional public health issues. We want our community to spend their money here locally with products and services that can be trusted. That's all I have for you. In reference to Mr. Kendrick's compromise, I do understand your point of view. I do agree that there is an issue with certain devices that can be concealed. On one hand, I want to be with you. On the other, I tend to find it very difficult because the language that's going to be used will be very ambiguous. I believe that there's going to be a lot of unsure. Is this legal? Is this not legal? The example that Mr. Mitchell has shown us with the jewel that has the sleeve. As I was seeing it up on the screen, I made a comment to my colleague. I said, I guarantee you that sleeve probably wasn't even sold at a vape shop or a tobacco retail shop. It probably was, so how are we going to ban products that are not being sold at vape stores but still can be utilized to conceal things? But that's. I think there's talking points that we could discuss on this issue, but at this point, I don't have a yay or nay for you on that, Mr. Kendrick.
So you would not be in favor of banning something that looks like a USB device?
I believe it all would depend on the language.
That's up to the city attorney.
Right, and I would wait to give my my answer once I see such language. I will tell you that I'm 100% against youth having access to any of these products, and that's what I have to say. I understand the concerns, and that's one of the things. One of the proposals I could tell you is that with Communities for Safer Vaping, that we would make it an initiative of ours, that we would make sure that the public, school boards, government entities may have privy to these such devices that might be on the market, and to be on the lookout for such items.
So would you be in favor of having the same thing as we do for the tobacco shops, to have stings every year and to see if they're selling to minors? And it looks like they all agree with that.
I'm in full support, Councilmember McClellan, as far as them doing sting operations on vape stores, just like they do with other tobacco retailers and alcohol-type businesses.
And we'd have to collect a fee just like we do from the smoke shops for that.
Yes, sir.
Like a license. Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, Bob, we already included in that, and it's clearly not working. We haven't had the best of luck over the last 18 years with the Neighborhood Market Association controlling their members, trying to keep them from selling alcohol and tobacco to kids. That's why we came up
I
with
will
all
say
this.
that the president has, just returned to this association, and things will definitely be back on track, and you have my word on that.
All right. Thank you, sir.
That would be our consumo, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Giselle Brambilla.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, staff, and citizens of El Cajon. My name is Giselle Brambilla. I've been in the vape industry for 8 years, and I've been vaping myself for 9 years. I'm a board member of Communities for Safer Vaping. We're dealing here with two separate issues. The first being youth access. I here have in my hands about 10 vapes and vape juices you can purchase online without any age verification on Craigslist, eBay, Amazon, Snapchat, and DHgate. It's unjust to blame the small businesses that do their due diligence to check the ID when a customer walks in for everything that's going on. The Communities for Safer Vaping and the NMA are ready to implement a training for retailers on proper ID verification. We will also ban any outdoor signage that promotes vaping, implement retail signage to raise awareness, and send direct mail to citizens on education on why you shouldn't vape if you don't smoke. The second issue is the illicit THC cartridges. These black market products are not being sold at any vape shops, but online and in the streets. The real culprit in the lung illness epidemic is these cartridges that contain vitamin E acetate, coconut oil, and other dangerous cutting agents. The CDC and FDA released this information on November 8, 2019. After months of blaming vape shops, the real problem has been finally exposed. It's very alarming that New Nicotine Labs research findings by Jake Rubenstein, presented to the council months ago, was ignored and overlooked, where it directly proved the same evidence the CDC and FDA released. Prohibition for decades has proven not to work, and I understand Big Tobacco is a huge donator in government campaigns, but I can't sit back and accept so much injustice from local governments who are supposed to be the biggest small business supporters. Just like we have put our trust in you, the leaders of our community, we ask you to let us be responsible business owners. And here are, these I just pulled from the internet today, on Amazon, where you can buy vapes without any age verification whatsoever.
Questions? Thank you, Gazelle.
Thank you.
Shannon Cousins.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi. Hello and good afternoon, Mayor, Council, and the community. My name is Shannon Cousins, and I am a proud member of Communities for Safer Vaping. I am a mother. I'm an advocate for vaping and a consumer of nicotine vape products. I use these products to remain smoke-free. I'm here to stand up for our rights to have access to healthier alternatives and flavors we choose to steer us away from tobacco. I, too, am on board with keeping these adult products out of the hands of minors and encourage you to work along with our community on solutions to ensure the children's safety. I am concerned about this ban and the force towards prohibition. I do not want to see history repeat itself. The last prohibition did not work and killed many by forcing them to harm other harmful, unregulated products. A concerned mother created the prohibition, and it wound up backfiring. A historian named Michael Lerner said, "Watch out for solutions that end up worse than the problems they are set out to solve. And remember that the Constitution is no place for experiments, noble or otherwise." I beg you not to repeat history and to create new history by being successful and help saving people's lives. Vape shops and manufacturers have followed all laws and regulations set in place. They are there to support and educate us all. Without them, you would be putting our lives in hands of some extremely scary situations and products on the black market. Consumers are the reason why these safer products were created. Please do not forget that and choose to take them away. I ask you, what about me? Yes, sir.
What nicotine level do you use when you're vaping?
I use a 3 or a 0. I go in between both of them.
Would you like to stop smoking?
I have stopped smoking. I do not any longer smoke tobacco products.
Well, if you cut down on your nicotine, you could probably do away with vaping.
I have
also.
cut down on my nicotine, sir. From the very beginning when I started, I was in between a 3 to a 6 milligram, and now I'm in between a 0 and a 3.
And is it your intention to stop smoking altogether or vaping as a use of the vaping things?
In the long run, yes.
And you've been doing it for 9 years and you haven't quit yet?
I started it 10 years ago, and 8 years ago I took it on without and took out complete tobacco products, and I continued vaping on. Yes, I do. I have titrated down. That's why the juice manufacturers and vape shops do sell them, so people can titrate and be successful. I feel that I am successful. I do not turn back to tobacco products at all the different carcinogens that are in there, as well as the exposure to my children would be a problem. There is 480,000 people that do die per year because of cigarettes. 65,000 of them are children that have been exposed to secondhand smoke.
Well, we know that nicotine is addictive, and you're still using nicotine after 9 years, so you can't stop after 9 years of using nicotine.
In that, the nicotine that is within these products is a clean form of nicotine that is put in there. I would much rather any day have a regulated vape juice going into my body rather than 4,000 other chemicals at any time, and I would support any smoker to convert to vaping.
And you think that it takes longer than 9 years to stop smoking or vaping?
It depends on the individual, honestly. My grandfather smoked for 70 years and got down to a 0.
All right, good for him.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Ma'am, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
How do you feel about the compromise that would still allow the sales of vaping devices and the sale of the flavored vape juice, but would ban the USB type things, the things that are meant to disguise the vaping device that the kids abuse? Keeping in mind that 27% of the high school students are vaping now.
Yes. I think that any adult that is vaping is not going to be accessing anything that will be hidden. I think that these items that you're speaking of are not sold in any vape shop that I have ever gone to, and I've been to many within California and other states. I think a lot of the things are accessed online, either through Amazon, eBay, and other things that people have created and are selling on there, which is not through a legal vape shop that is
Now, what about the USB ones? The 99-cent one that I see at the 7-Eleven by my house.
I saw that too over on Washington, and I was surprised of the 99-cent one. I have not seen those in any of the vape shops that I go to. I'm not. Go ahead, sir.
So you're saying that that wouldn't affect the vape shops, but I'm talking about my goal here is to stop them from selling this stuff to kids.
I fully agree with that.
Okay, so my question to you is, in our compromise, we would allow the selling of the flavored vapes.
Mm-hmm.
We would allow the selling of all vaping devices, except for the ones that are designed to look like something else. And specifically, the big one is the USB type.
I agree that things that look like they're supposed to be discreet and hidden should not be sold, especially with the ability to get into the hands of minors.
Right. So the USB ones specifically. That's my question to you. The USB lookalikes.
Yes, I agree with that.
You're okay with that compromise?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Richard Hobart.
I turned in his paper. He's unable to make it.
It's going to go on forever.
Kelly Edmondson.
Good afternoon, Mayor, fellow council members. My name is Kelsey Edmondson, and I'm a proud board member of the Communities for Safer Vaping. My experience in this industry is from inception, which is 13 and a half years ago. I count myself as one of the first people to ever start an e-cigarette company in San Diego County. I'm listening, and Councilmember Kendrick, I have to tell you that I feel that although your intentions are great, they would be fatally flawed through social media sales, online sales, and unscrupulous straw sales done by adults. What's the answer to those things? To ban them from a retail store standpoint, that's fine. We have no problem not selling it. I'm in agreement with that. But how are we going to counteract the rest of this? And that's a bigger problem in our community. As Councilwoman Gaspar said in her statement, that she asked her own children and found social media to be the biggest culprit of sales. So I went a little off script. I'll go on script and just say that youth vaping is a problem that deserves an answer. And furthermore, Communities for Safing Vaping chapter under the Neighborhood Market Association is here to help and work with city councils all around San Diego County. And we have a pledge to do that. As a former smoker myself, who started smoking in when I was 13 years old, transitioning from the 8th to 9th grade, there were no real obstacles at that time. So I don't know what's changed. I visited my old high school, and I'm 40 years old now, and they still have the smoking tennis courts and Smokers Hill. I don't see much changing with the time. But due to recent political grandstanding under the cover of vape, we find ourselves faced with this issue. So, anyways, that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming.
Jake Rubenstein. Chris Messick.
Hi,
Chris,
my name is...
welcome.
Oh, sorry. A little nervous, sorry.
It's okay. You're doing fine.
Hi, my name is Chris Messick, 30-year-old El Cajon resident and El Cajon Valley High School graduate. I grew up here. I encourage you not to move forward with the proposed vape ban. Evidence already shows in areas where vape bans have been implemented, there is a sharp increase in the use of cigarettes and more dangerous products. The proposed ban could cause a much bigger harm to the public. Thank you.
Questions?
I got a quick question for you. I'm not talking about the ban in the compromise. The ban is only the USB stuff, the stuff that's meant to look like something else. Would you agree on that?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Rami Guskis.
Good afternoon.
Hi, welcome.
My name is Rami Gurgis. I'm a member of the Committee of Safer Vaping. I'm 47 years old. I'm married and have 3 children under the age of 6 years old. I went to Mira Mesa College and I live in East County for almost 30 years. I own a smoke and vape shop. We have 5 employees, including myself, and we've been in business for almost 20 years. This ban will affect not only the daily business, my employees, but most important, my family. Since the rise of vaping and its healthy alternative to cigarettes, we have encouraged thousands of our customers to stop smoking cigarettes and try vaping. We have never had a customer complain or said that they are sick from vaping products. All of our products are legal and carry a California tax. We have completely removed and stopped selling cigarettes for 10 years now and only sell vaping products. On 3 separate occasions, the Tobacco Task Force entered my store with a minor, and all 3 times we denied the minor of the sale of tobacco product and received a letter from the police department stating that we had passed the sting operation. A 57-year-old regular customer, we'll call him Steve the Uber driver, told me that he's been trying to quit cigarettes for 40 years, with attempts by doctors, medical patches, gum, and even hypnosis. He told me, he said, Rami, I cannot believe that your 22-year-old employee helped me stop smoking cigarettes to try vaping. He's told me that he's been not smoking cigarettes for 4 years and he feels better than ever. Please do not consider the ban of vaping products unless they're concealable ones that you're trying. It is saving the lives of our beautiful city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Steve?
So you sell vaping products, so you're probably pretty knowledgeable in the product that you sell. Can I assume that?
Yes.
Okay, so help me understand a non-tobacco nicotine product like vaping. Vaping water-based product that has nicotine in it. I don't know what that does to the human body. I know it's addictive, but what can you tell me?
I can tell you a great example. If you take a cigarette and you draw from it and you lift up a white T-shirt and you blow through it, you're going to get a big brown nicotine stain. You could take a vaping unit and vape all day long and blow in that same, and it's going to be clear. So to tell you what that does inside your lungs is right there, to prove it right there.
Well, I understand the clarity, but do you have any product knowledge from the manufacturers that say the long-term effects of nicotine use, not in cigarettes where there's tar and things, but just long-term effects of nicotine only, what those are?
Well, nicotine carries thousands of chemicals, and we all know that. And vaping is a healthy alternative to where you don't have all these harsh chemicals and carcinogens that cigarettes has. And when people come in and they're vaping, they just feel great, and they're breathing great, they're sleeping great, and it's a healthy alternative. I don't know all the facts exactly, but I know it's a lot healthier alternative than cigarettes.
So where I'm going with this is I'm trying to understand, for instance, caffeine is addictive. I know people that must have a Coca-Cola every morning to start work. I know people that must have caffeinated coffee to start their workday, and they must do it every day. I haven't heard anything that said caffeine is detrimental to your health. Is nicotine considered the same? They're both stimulants.
Well, no, my doctor tells me don't drink too much coffee because I drink a lot of coffee. But I agree that there is a line between doing something healthy and then overdoing it.
But you don't know of a difference between caffeine's effect on the body versus nicotine's effect on the body without the cigarette tar portion of the cigarette. Do you have any product knowledge from the manufacturer or anything?
Well, when you're vaping, you have the option to go 0, 3, or 6, or all the way up to 50. But if you're if you're trying to quit, which a lot of customers do, is that they lower their nicotine levels slowly to go to 0 or 3, and then they're not getting any nicotine or less amount of nicotine than, let's say, a standard cigarette or a regular vape.
I'm trying to understand the lady who's been doing 9 years of 3 milligrams or whatever it is, nicotine. Is that any worse than a cup of coffee every day with caffeine in it?
I don't know that.
I'm trying to understand that.
I might be able to help a little bit, Steve. They're both stimulants, you're right. The problem with nicotine really is the delivery system. With cigarettes, obviously the delivery system causes cancer. Nicotine is addictive. We can argue whether it's a good thing or a bad thing to be addicted to a product. It probably is a bad thing. But everything that I've read and know about it is that the big problems you have associated with nicotine addiction are some people have an increase in hypertension. And some people have problems associated with addiction based upon the fact that nicotine releases dopamine, and you really become addicted to the dopamine. And that's what the addictive process is. So,
does that happen with caffeine also?
Yeah, almost exactly the same way.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh,
thank you.
Ramey,
yes.
Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate your acceptance of the compromise. I just want to mention something. When you talked about blowing through, let's say, a white piece of cloth or Kleenex, I did exactly the same thing with my mom when I was about 12 years old. And she says, I don't inhale. This isn't bad for me. She only smoked 3 cigarettes a day. And I said, okay, exhale, now blow into this piece of Kleenex. And it would be all black and brown. So you're exactly right.
No, it's true. And even people that vape, they don't smell like cigarettes anymore. And that's just gross, just to smell like cigarettes. So, yeah, that's the number one.
One thing I did want to say to everybody here regarding my disdain for cigarettes, that started about 30 years ago. My sister was not a smoker, but there was a smoker there in the house with her. And the day that her first baby was born, they found out that she had lung cancer, terminal lung cancer. They gave her 6 months to live. She managed to live 3 years. And that's one of the reasons, that I've been so anti-tobacco, for the last 30 years. It's a very personal thing to me. And I'm trying to keep the kids from ending up in the same position. And I understand that the e-cigarettes, even though they may not be proven or an accepted smoking cessation device, may help some people quit smoking. So what I'm offering here is the compromise to ban the lookalike stuff, as you had suggested. So I thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We have 5 more speakers. Samar Youssef.
When will it end?
Well, sir, welcome.
Samar Youssef. I don't got much to say, but how you're saying about the USB device, yes, I agree with that. It's very easy, discreet. I use them myself. Plenty of times I'm in an airplane, it crosses my mind, I want to take it out, and I'm feeling it. It's easy. It's very easy. I do agree with you. But banning it altogether, black market is going to keep going. Other states are going to sell it. It's very simple. They already told you that you can buy online, eBay, Amazon. You don't even have to verify your age on some of these websites. So that's what I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
At
you.
this point, that's what I'm proposing.
Yeah.
Just the ban on the USB, all the lookalike devices.
And I agree on one thing. Nobody needs 50 milligram of nicotine. That's another thing I can agree with, too. But some people do. I use it. I use about 35% milligram. But I use it 1 time, 2 times, and I set it down. I use the responsibility. I don't keep taking the hits after hit to get that head high or the rush or the kids are looking for. Yeah, that's one thing. But taking that out of the market completely, punishing us retailers, that's fine. But they're going to get it somewhere else.
That's why
they're going to get it from another state.
Right,
they're going to get it from another black market. People make it in the garage, I got customers saying, I make liquid in my garage. That's what you guys should be targeting, not the retailers. The retailers are actually looking out for the people and the kids. I have kids myself, and I don't sell to kids or I don't want no kids to get it. So that's what you guys should be targeting. It's the black market, the people making it in the garage, getting it online, not the local retailers.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Kurt Berquam.
Pastor, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Bill Wells and council members and community. I've been working in drug rehabilitation work since 1987, and we went over to Amsterdam, Holland, working with the drug addicted, and we got to see a lot of beautiful miracles. So the nature is the nature of addiction, and addictions are things that start small, and then we accept, a compromise, and then the next level it can end and go on a deeper level. I think the major concern, of course, is the health of the youth and the children, the junior high school kids. I believe that they're going to communicate, and they're going to press some limits, as teenagers usually do. But I believe that if you can make that compromise and really kind of outthink their strategy to deceive, then you're going to be able to regulate it more. And then, the authorities can control it more. And because the nature is they're going to try and, sneak it in. And if you have regulation, then the potential is you might be able to capture them if they're taking something that is not regulated and something that's going to hurt them. Caffeine, nicotine is addictive. And, of course, the more that you do it and the more dopamine, then there's also then the potential to want something more to satisfy that. So in that, we all have to regulate ourselves, and we need the help of the great helper. And I'm going to say a prayer to the living God, who is the helper. The Holy Spirit's the helper, and we need Jesus' grace and wisdom. And it would be a privilege to say a prayer and ask for wisdom in the community. Would that be all right? All right. Amen. Well, let's say a prayer together. Lord Jesus, we thank you for our community. We thank you for our council members, our mayor. We thank you for their responsible, governing of our citizens and helping us to be a healthy community. And we are praying against those dangerous addictions that lead to out-of-control behavior. And Lord, we thank you for wisdom. We know that people are going to smoke. We know that people are going to vape, but we pray for wisdom in our laws and regulation that would protect the youth and the children and spare them from going deeper into any greater addictions. Lord, we pray protection on all the community and wisdom in this situation. And we give you praise for your grace and truth in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Hey, Pastor.
Jean Duffy.
Duffy.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members, and staff. My name is Jean Duffy. I am a mother of 3 young adults. My husband is an East County school superintendent, and I grew up in El Cajon. I graduated from Granite Hills High School. I will not say what year that was. Several years ago. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today, and thank you for reviewing and hopefully strengthening the city's tobacco control regulations. We all deserve to breathe clean air and to be protected from toxic chemicals found in tobacco, marijuana, and vape products. But right now, the sales and marketing of these dangerous products precedes the appropriate research and approval processes. Why are these products on the shelves when we don't know what harmful chemicals are in them or the long-term effects on things like the brain, the heart, and the lungs? Whether it's the black market or vapes that come from stores, we have no idea what these products will do long-term. We need your leadership to help remedy this. The vape industry says that kids get vaping devices and juices from the internet or from dealers, but over 70% of young people report they get them from local stores. We know that if you make a product less accessible, fewer people, especially kids, will use them. Stores don't want to ban Juul or Soren because they're making a fortune off our kids who use them. My husband, as an educator and a school administrator, has watched this vaping epidemic spike seemingly overnight. He speaks regularly to administrators throughout the county who are confiscating electronic smoking devices, usually flavored vapes, from students of all races and economic backgrounds, and none of these administrators know what to do about the threat to their students. They need your help. In California, 63.6% of current cigarette smokers started by the age of 18. 81% of youth who have ever used tobacco products initiated tobacco with a flavored product. And youth that vape are 4 times more likely to start using traditional cigarettes. The city can and should prohibit the sale of vaping devices and all flavored tobacco products. Vape products are not now and have never been one of the 7 FDA-approved cessation devices. When you vape, you're just exchanging one dangerous vice for another. And oftentimes people end up using vape and other tobacco or marijuana products. We cannot put profits above public health, especially when it comes to our kids and introducing them to a lifetime of addiction. Thanks.
Let me see if there's any questions for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
3 more speakers. Dana Stevens.
Same price, the same penalties. Yeah, okay. Do they have a license? Same license?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you for bringing this item back for further discussion and review. I wanted to start by saying that I appreciate that Graham brought forward the CDC Every Thursday report. We subscribe to that same report. And I wanted to follow up with some of the other data that is in that report. Of the over 2,000 cases, only 867 of them reported what the substance was in the e-cigarette or vape device that they were using. And while we heard that 80% included THC-containing products, only 34% were THC-exclusive products. While 64% were nicotine-containing products. And when you look at the age breakdown of the patients in that 2,051 cases, 54% of them were under the age of 24, keeping in mind the legal age is 21. I brought for you something, some PowerPoint slides that I wanted to share with you, including the most important, I think, is how California defines tobacco products. Currently, it does include electronic cigarettes and vape pens and the liquids. We've heard a lot about the liquids and the different levels in there. CDC did a study, and they tested 13 different liquids that were all labeled as non-nicotine. Out of those 13 liquids that were labeled non-nicotine, 9 contained nicotine, and none contained the level of nicotine that of the ones that they tested for nicotine that were labeled for nicotine, none of them contained the level of nicotine that it was labeled as. So while I keep hearing about black market, it's important to remember that none of these products are regulated. So I'm not sure what the black market is when there is no regulation of any of it, period. So that's why there's a lot of mislabeling, misunderstanding what is considered what in these products. The other important item to notice in these devices is the difference between the salt-based, which are all of the USB type products are salt-based, and all of them contain nicotine. Juul doesn't make any, and neither do their lookalike products make any that are non-nicotine. Another site I thought you would find interesting looks at the level of nicotine, blood level nicotine, in the time span following a draw of or a puff, whether that's a cigarette. You see, one line is the cigarette, and one is the lab testing of a vaping device, and you'll see that they mimic one another.
Dana?
Yes.
We've run out of time. If you could wrap it up, I appreciate it.
Anyway, I really want to support the concept, at least, of eliminating the USB lookalikes. But I would really ask you to think about a moratorium until the FDA takes action on these products. And that would be a temporary step until the FDA regulates. Thank you.
I have some questions. Any questions? Dan, I have one question. So when I said black market, maybe I used the wrong terminology. What I was trying to say was that these vitamin E packets that are causing 100% of the hospitalizations and deaths that we've been reading about, my understanding is that those are not sold at stores. So are they being sold at stores, or are they not?
I don't think anyone has tested everything that's being sold in stores, because none of it's being regulated, tested, controlled, followed. So I don't know that you can say that. No one really knows what's in everything. Even the ones that have been tested, sir, aren't what they say they are.
Let's stay away from the absolutes of 100%. But in general, are you finding, when you're out there, are you finding these cannabis vitamin E packets that are causing these troubles in the stores?
If you go into the marijuana stores, they're selling
I'm talking about the vape stores. So we're talking about vape stores tonight. So.
They are not allowed to sell any marijuana product, the vape stores. You already regulate vape stores, and this city has a 100% prohibition on any marijuana sales.
I just wanted to say that when I used the terminology black market, what I meant to say was that stores are prohibited from selling these products already, and so kids have to go to the internet or to black market people selling on the streets to buy these things. So regulating the stores makes no difference, unless I'm wrong.
So you can go into any of the marijuana stores and buy the vape pens.
Well, believe me, if I could get rid of marijuana, I would do it in a heartbeat.
And I honor you for that, sir, so very much. And I thank the city for being so strong in that conviction.
All right. Well, thanks. I'm trying to figure out. I'm hearing different things from different people.
No, I understand because it's all very confusing, and products aren't what they are labeled to be.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it, Dana.
2 more speakers, sir. Next speaker is Bonnie Price.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi. I just had to speak. As one who's terribly allergic to most chemicals in the air, I would side with any effort to control vaping and tobacco smoke. I'm terribly allergic to tobacco smoke. Everybody is. It's got formaldehyde, the basic chemical from formaldehyde in it, which is how we preserve dead creatures. I would say that because the state of science on vaping, secondhand smoke, is now not really established well, that the city council consider coming back to this issue when more facts are known, and then regulate where it can happen, where vaping can happen, because we don't really know what this does to kids. And people are saying, well, we won't sell it to kids, but if they're victimized because they happen to be in a home or in a car where this toxic stuff is going, they have a lifelong problem. My niece has had cancer because her parents smoked. She grew up with blue rooms, and who knows what people are doing. Our condo complex banned all smoking. None. No vaping, no cigarettes, no marijuana. And I know some beach cities have outlawed smoking in the cities. So, you could do that later.
Questions for Bonnie? Just curious, are you against marijuana?
I would not use it. I know what it smells like. To me, it smells sick, but I know people get relief from it, and I would not deprive them of the beneficial effects of it.
So you're more comfortable with marijuana than vaping?
No, I don't know what the effects of vaping are. I do know that some MDs have discovered that marijuana does stop spasms of those who are afflicted, and there have been kids who have had...
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I didn't want to get into a new discussion about the good or bad of marijuana. I was just curious because I knowing the way you think generally, I would have guessed that you would have been in favor of us having dispensaries in town, and I thought it was interesting that you were against the vaping. I just was trying to figure that out.
I would not be around any smoke or any auto exhaust if I had...
Me neither. I'm with you. Thanks, Bonnie.
Sir, we have two more speakers. Amanda McGetsy.
Okay. Hi, Amanda.
Hi. As many of you know, I am an SCSU graduate student, and I am supposed to be in class right now, but I am risking attendance docking because it's so important to be here tonight. I want to share how tobacco affected my family and how it might compare to vaping. My grandmother had a beautiful singing voice, but I never heard it. In the 50s, my grandmother was a social smoker. She was told that smoking was healthy, that it helped her skin, helped her lose weight, and that it was good for calming her nerves during pregnancy. That's what the packaging said, and the scientific research on the long-term health effects of smoking wouldn't be completed for nearly 2 decades. And during those 2 decades, my mom developed severe childhood asthma. They didn't know the cause then, but looking back, we know that it was exposure to cigarette smoke. And it wasn't just my mom. My grandmother began to have trouble breathing as well. After my mom went to college, my grandmother's breathing got so bad that she needed to have a tracheostomy to create a permanent opening in her neck for a breathing tube. She got it right after Christmas break, or right before Christmas break, but she waited to tell my mom until she got back from college because she wanted my mom to focus on studying for finals. She was so proud of my mom for being the first one to go to college. My grandmother had a beautiful singing voice, but I never heard it because from that day forward, she could only say 2 or 3 words at a time. Then she would have to take a raspy gulp of air. Don't let the vaping industry do the same thing to El Cajon that the tobacco industry did to my family. Don't let them convince El Cajon citizens that vaping is healthy when they do not have the long-term scientific research to back that up. Right now, all they have is millions of dollars in marketing and lobbying fees and business associations. This is a question of putting business profit over community health. And I'm here today to plead with you. Protect our citizens' health, not the corporation's profit. Please consider a temporary ban on vaping until scientific research can be completed. At the very least, our citizens deserve to be able to make an informed choice. That's more than my grandmother had. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Julie Vish.
Hi, you're the last one. You feel special?
Of course. I always feel special.
Good.
So I'm going to have to cut a lot of this down because of some of the things that you've said already. So last time I was here, I told you that I quit a half a pack a day because of my vape. I smoke vape 0%, absolutely no nicotine whatsoever. But to your question, nicotine there has been studies that actually helps with brain function. But we are not saying that vape is good. It's a healthier alternative. So this ordinance would not stop anyone from vaping. You can go to a city right next door or even to Vape in 619, where I go, in unincorporated El Cajon. This ordinance has the greatest intentions, but they are very misguided. I've been a surgical technologist for 16 years. I constantly see the effects of smoking. Not to mention, I lost my father and grandmother to tobacco-related cancers. I do understand why you are fighting this, but stop and think about it. This will not stop me or you or a 16-year-old kid from vaping. It will just decrease El Cajon's tax revenue. That's all I see it as doing. So what do? The only way we combat kids smoking is by punishing those children. It is illegal for people under the age of 21 to smoke. Make that a big deal. Partner with schools. Any kids caught smoking will have legal problems as well as in-school issues. We need to make them responsible for their actions. Those are their actions. Millennials got away with how they are currently because we were coddled. It's time to drop the hammer. A current punishment for underage smoking in California is a $75 fine or 30 hours of community service. Why aren't we leveraging this? We need to make that penalty known, put this on their shoulders, and things will change. Kids change because of one of two things, reward or punishment. So at least do one. Now, to some of the things that you can do, because saying things that look like USBs is so wide. One thing I think you can do is no pre-filled cartridges. Another thing is having a possible minimum weight. So my vape is substantial. I mean, it's very heavy. And because it has internal batteries that you can actually take out. These are what make it heavy. So I don't know if you want to do something where it has to have removable batteries. If you want to do a minimum weight, no pre-filled cartridges, those would all help with this Juul thing. I'm done.
Okay,
Thank you.
Let me see if there's any questions. Questions? Thanks for finishing us off then.
Sir, I apologize. We did receive one more card. Carol,
Somebody wanted to be more special. Okay.
Carol Green.
Hey, Carol, I saw you come in. How you doing?
Sorry, I was someplace else that was also important. So thank you so much for listening to me. I want to let you know that I'm here today representing the California State PTA. I'm the president-elect for the California State PTA. And just last week, we had our deadline for resolutions. For those of you who may or may not know, to take a policy position at PTA, you have to have what they call authorities. We received 5 different resolutions on vaping across the state of California. Parents up in arms, upset, not knowing what to do about this vaping situation. Their children telling them they can't go to the bathroom. They can't study. There's no place to escape it. And the lies that the industry is telling people about how safe and harmless it is. So what's happened is these parents are really upset. We've looked at our authorities, and because the definition of tobacco falls under vaping is included in that, we can take a position against vaping, also against flavored tobacco, just to let you know, throw that in there, but also against vaping devices. It's true. We can educate our kids. We can educate our families. But what we've found is that education is not as effective as policies that are actually put in place. As we also all know, medical experts, our children's frontal lobe is not completely developed. And I wonder exactly at what age that happens, but they say somewhere around 24 or 25. So what happens is we, as the adults in the room, need to make policies that are good for our kids. For 30 years, 40 years, the tobacco industry told us this was safe, it was harmless. It took a long time for us to realize that it wasn't, and even a longer time to reverse the trends. Now, with vaping reversing all of that hard work on public policy, it's time for the adults to set policies that are going to really impact our kids. The 2 school districts in El Cajon have asked you, please, please do something. And this is something that you really can do, so I would ask you to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, no, I think we're good. All right. I'm going to take it out of the public setting and bring it up to the City Council for a discussion. I think it probably is important to remember that the staff has suggested that we accept the report as is. And if somebody wanted to make a modification to that, this is a place where they would bring that up and discuss that. And I assume that we're going to go in that direction.
I have a question for staff. Do we make stings on these vaping shops the same as we do on cigarette shops
yes.
every year?
When we do our compliance checks on tobacco retailers, whether it be a 7-Eleven or a vape shop, we do all those compliance checks.
And do they pay the same fee for a vaping shop as they do a tobacco store?
They do.
And do they have the same penalties as a tobacco store if they sell to a minor?
Yes.
Good.
Gary?
Well, actually, we don't have any just vaping shops in the city. So I think most of the people that spoke here are from other cities or the county. And we want to bear in mind that the County of San Diego will be, looks like they're going to ban the sale of the all vaping devices, at least a moratorium for several months, and they're going to ban the sale of the flavored vaping devices. So we're probably going to have kids coming into El Cajon to buy their vaping devices. I think at the bare minimum that we should ask staff to come back with some ordinances that would ban the sale of the USB lookalike devices and other devices that don't look like e-cigarette devices. And I trust that Morgan can come up with some very specific language that would pass constitutional muster. That would be at a bare minimum. And we have, let's take a look at how this is shaking out here. We've got a number of people that came in, and some with very good points, that belong to the organization that was affiliated with the Neighborhood Market Association. We've been dealing with that group for many years, and they're always saying, yeah, let us do it. And it's never been successful for alcohol or tobacco. Never. They always say, let us do it, and then it always falls apart and they're still selling to kids. So they don't have a whole lot of credibility with me. But I understand they make money from selling vaping devices. That's her living. And as Molly said, and you were very well spoken, Molly, she's on board with the compromise. Now, on the other side, we've got the parents. California PTA, which is no small organization, The elementary school kids that are 12 years old are vaping. They're saying, please, City Council, do something. The high school district, which is all pretty conservative guys on there that don't believe in government overreach. We've got the school district that's run by Shadow Mountain Church, one of the biggest churches in town. The school district that's run by Foothills, which is one of the biggest churches in town. These people don't make money off of vaping. They want to save the kids. So just like if I, and I think we have a responsibility to do that. If I saw Phil Ortiz's little boy running out in the street in Washington, I'd run out there after him and pull him in. That's my responsibility. It's my responsibility to keep these extremely dangerous devices out of the hands of our children. Parents can't be there 24 hours a day. We have devices that are created, in my opinion, to appeal to children. Right. There's no reason that an adult needs a vaping device that's disguised as a hoodie. There's no reason an adult needs a vaping device that's disguised as a USB drive. You know, that we're asking the adults to maybe just to have a tiny bit of inconvenience to save 27% of our high school population who will be adults, and they will be addicted to nicotine by the time they're grown up, if they aren't already. We have to stop it. You know, this is just a disaster in the making. So I'm going to make a proposal that we ask the staff to come back with an ordinance that would ban all of the devices that are designed to deceive the teachers and the parents that look like something other than a vaping device. And we have the majority of the people in the vaping business that think that's a good idea. So I think this is a great compromise. You know, we've listened to the vaping people. Molly, I really appreciate your comments. Very informed. I think you're a really great person. So that will be my motion.
Second.
As a motion and a second, as a point of order, I would ask that the other council members have a chance to weigh in before we vote. Would you be comfortable with that?
I'm fine with that.
Steve, or?
Well, anytime government creates an ordinance, you have to look at unintended consequences. Do you solve one problem and create another? So I always kind of think that way. I am concerned that the vaping stores are being demonized because I think my understanding is they sell a water-based product, which is different than things that you get online or not in retail stores, which is an oil-based product. And it is the oil-based product, which is including the vitamin E acetate, which is creating what's commonly known as wet lung. Times have changed. Man, when some of us were kids, we go to 7-Eleven, buy those little cigarette packs with the candy cigarettes. There's a little stick of sugar that you would blow on, and powdered sugar would come off, and you just felt real cool for smoking a candy cigarette. And now here we are talking about 12-year-olds with a fake USB, you know, smoking nicotine. So it's too bad that we've devolved that way. I'm concerned about the rights of people. I'm concerned about parental rights and responsibilities towards their kids and overreaching there. I'm concerned about restricting adults' rights to what is now a legal product still until the FDA says no more. And in the retail stores, I think they have a lot to lose by selling bad product. They lose their store, they lose their investment, they lose their rent. When you buy online, that person has no liability. Try to go after somebody who sells stuff online that's bad, and that's where the scary stuff is. So I'm really get concerned about banning product in retail stores. Takes away the rights of adults who I do believe have a right to wean themselves off of smoking or just enjoy it because they enjoy it, and it doesn't solve the problem. You can still get this product in a non-retail environment, and that's what kids are doing in many cases. So I don't think a ban on the product in retail stores solves the problem. I think it only pushes people towards a more illicit source that can be very dangerous for everybody, including kids. As far as these, I'll call them carriers or disguised carriers. I understand a ban. I don't believe it solves the problem. We can say we'll stop selling in retail stores, but people will get them from online sources. They'll get them from friends. They'll get them from social media. So I'm concerned that a ban is symbolic. It doesn't really address how people get things, which is probably more often not in a retail environment. But I don't know of an unintended consequence of a ban. My only concern would be is if we ban the carriers, does that push people towards a more nefarious source? And now you've gotten them into a bigger problem than just buying a fake USB. Now they're actually buying bad product from that person. That's a concern that I have.
Gary, why don't we let everybody go through it? I'll give you the final say.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the concern of, and the question that we're dealing with here is, how do we protect children while not limiting people's rights? And I have a good friend that I spoke to regarding this topic, Coast Guard veteran, smoked since he was 16 years old, and he kicked the habit through e-cigarettes, and now he doesn't smoke anymore. 9 years he used it, which is an odd term because that's how long you used it. Steve, you put it very well. I don't know if the solution that we're presenting is going to solve the issue. And one question, I don't know if does the school districts in our district keep data of the incidences where vaping products are confiscated on campus? Because if we're going to implement any kind of policy, I'm a firm believer of reviewing that policy to see if it's actually affecting what we intend to affect. So, do you know that, staff? Or
I'm unaware of how they deal with when they confiscate a device, what the penalty is or is not, or what policies they have.
And would that be with regard to penalty for the minor? Is that a state law that would need to occur? Some kind of similar to a minor using alcohol or a minor caught with cigarettes.
It sounds like there's a state law that prohibits the sales or use by minors of electronic vaping devices, just as there is for tobacco. As I mentioned before, the age now for tobacco sales, and I think for e-vaping, is 21 years. So there must be something, I haven't looked into it, but there must be some state law that also controls that for minors.
Yeah.
So if El Cajon PD...
I think Gary has an answer to your question.
Gary, please.
Phil, I do have an answer for you. The state, I know this because of the stings. They don't have to go to get special permission anymore to do when the kids come in and try to buy tobacco, and that there is no, the burden by the state has been shifted to the retailer. So it's not actually, the kid can't get in trouble for buying tobacco, essentially. So, and I actually agree with that because I think the burden should be on the adult that's selling them the illegal product. But 70%, we had someone here to testify that 70% of the sales to children are from local retailers. So I'm just looking, I don't think it's that big of a deal to have an adult not buy an Apple Watch that's actually a hidden vaping device, or a hoodie that's a hidden vaping device, or something that looks like a USB device. And see, the problem is we got 27% of the high school kids vaping. That's huge. And we're asking for just a tiny percent of the adults to use something that doesn't look like a USB. So that's a small price to pay, just for that. Just like we have, adult books and magazines have to be in a store that's 660 feet away from a school or a church to protect the kids. That's part. Sometimes it's a slight bit of convenience. We're talking a problem. We're talking a product that will make them addicted for the rest of their lives. I mean, even if we say they don't have the vitamin E acetate in it, and it doesn't kill you, like the 2,000 people they killed or thousands that's been hospitalized, it's still a really bad thing. And to just a slight tweak in the ordinance, which is way less than what the county is doing. I mean, the county looks like they're going to ban, they've already voted to have an ordinance come back to completely ban vaping devices and put them, or at least ban them for a moratorium for about 6 months, and to completely ban the flavored devices. We're not even talking to doing this. The county's doing this much. I'm talking about doing this much.
I've got a question.
Well, I don't think Phil was finished. After Phil's done, I'll...
I understand, and I don't. I would like to see how. I'd like to see data. I like to make my decisions based on data, and it's. I don't know that we've seen data from the school districts of what the current numbers are with regard to use in our district, and then be able to see the reduction in use with a hypothetical ordinance. The government is a sword, and I'm just very cautious when I use it. And I guess I'll just leave it at that.
I had promised Steve next.
So, Mr. Foley, this is a question. That the vaping carriers, when I say carrier, I mean a device to cover a jewel or something, or an iPhone case or something. Are those considered covered under vaping products? Was that part of your question?
That's actually another part of the question.
I'm not sure we have it defined that way yet in our code.
I guess what I'm saying is if you define the carriers as part of a vaping product, then it's illegal to sell that carrier to anybody under 21. It's considered the same as any other vape juice, vape device, vape accessory probably is a good word. And instead of a ban, if it's just included in all those things which are illegal to sell to people under 21, does that accomplish the purpose?
Well, I think our ordinance does refer to electronic vaping devices in the tobacco retail licensing, but it's only for the purposes of regulating and licensing what kind of stores would be subject to our licensing regulations and penalties for violating the sales. So I think, and I'd have to look it up here, but I think it does include the definition of electronic vaping devices as well as tobacco products in those types of descriptions.
While Mr. Foley was talking, I did look it up because it is your next agenda item. And under the definition, it does say that electronic vapor devices means any device with a heating element, a battery, or electronic circuit. So I think it does exclude what you're referring to, Mr. Goebel, as sort of a disguising device out in our current definition.
I'm just wondering if it's if it is legal to include accessories as a definition with the electronic nicotine delivery, so ENDS or whatever it's called.
Again, I think any one of these devices have to have a heating element. That's the industry out there, and so it's either small batteries that heat it or it's the large batteries that heat it. So they would fall within this definition of under our tobacco retail licensing ordinance.
I understand that. Let me use the metaphor, a difference between an iPhone and an iPhone cover. We know that the iPhone is the heating element device. I'm saying the iPhone cover, which covers the heating device. That sounds like that's not currently covered in our municipal code.
Yeah, but I'm not quite sure, and I don't know enough about these products. I'm not quite sure if these are covers, as you say, carriers, as opposed to the actual vaping device itself. So that's something we'd have to look at.
Okay.
I don't have an answer for you because I don't understand it.
I understand. I understand. I go ahead.
So I think, again, and I don't understand it fully either. I've done enough YouTube searching to prepare for this presentation. So, for example, the iPhone is an actual device that has a battery in it that you can actually take a puff off of that. So that would clearly be, in my mind, defined as a device. It has a heating element. The USB port sleeve that we showed, that was just a sleeve. In fact, you could make the argument that it's to keep paper clips too, right? I mean, that would be maybe more difficult to define without being vague. But there are probably some devices that are used for disguising purposes that do not have the heating element, that do not have the definition of a device that we currently have, because they are just used for that as a camouflage, not as a device that looks like something else.
Yeah, I'm trying to distinguish between the carrier, the non-heating element cover that covers up one of those devices, versus a counterfeit iPhone, which really is a heating element vaping device. And this is the confusion that I think we have in trying to define these things.
Gary, did you want to say something else?
If we don't do something, and I think at the minimum, banning these look-alike devices, and some kid dies, I'm going to feel really bad. Or, so I think this is the bare minimum that we should do. The other thing is, we can do an ordinance that has a sunset clause, so it runs out when the FDA comes out with their rules. And that's May 20th or something like that? They're supposed to do that? And then in the meantime, we asked the school districts for data to see if this reduces things.
You have a motion on the table and a second. If you want to make a different motion, you could rescind your motion and make a different motion.
So I'll rescind that motion and make a motion that we do we asked the the staff to come back with some ordinances for us to choose from that would ban the look-alike devices, and that would be specifically the USB look-alike devices that can be used as electronic cigarettes. And one of our options would be have a sunset clause, and also to get some information from the school districts. Obviously, if the California PTA, the elementary school district, high school district, Shadow Mountain School District, Foothills School District writes us a letter saying do something, I really feel we have an obligation to do something, or at least explore it a little bit more. There's a problem. And we had testimony that 70% of the kids that buy it retail. Gosh, if we could reduce the problem by 70%, that'd be incredible. So you had that motion? That will be my motion.
Well, first, I think you need the second, Mr. McClellan first, to withdraw his second on the first motion.
And I'll second the new motion.
Okay. I'm going to be voting no on this motion. I'll tell you why. It's not because I'm in favor of smoking. I'm not in favor of smoking. I'm not in favor of vaping. I'm not in favor of marijuana. I think as a healthcare professional, I spent all my life, I'm really not in favor of putting anything into your lungs that is not air. It just, but having said that, I'm also an American, and I believe a lot in freedom, and I'm very afraid of what a trend I see in this country is of slowly giving away our freedoms for safety. And I want to put it in perspective. The CDC says 39 people have died from vaping. in 24 different states. This last year, we had 5,500 people killed in motorcycle deaths. We had 40,000 people killed in automobile deaths. And here's the big one. 300,000 people will die this year for obesity-related illnesses. Now, if we're going to use the logic that we have to protect kids from themselves because they're going to go out and do something stupid and they're going to get addicted to nicotine, then let's go after the big one. Let's say, 65% of kids drink a Coca-Cola every day, and 25% of kids have a candy bar every day. Shouldn't we be going after anybody who's trying to kill our kids by giving them Coca-Cola or candy bars? And of course, that's kind of an absurdity because we accept addiction to sugar, just like we accept addiction to alcohol. But there's probably no substance known to man that's killed more people than alcohol. And yet we accept it because we've decided as a country that people have the right to do that because they're free. Even though I think it's a very bad thing to do. I think it's a really, really bad idea. And just so you don't think I'm a little over the top here, I want you to think about some of the other freedoms that politicians and political people are trying to take right now. There is a proposal right now by Cory Booker and Congressperson Cortez. They would like to prevent the eating of meat. They would like to make it illegal to eat meat because if we have cows will have flatulence, and flatulence will provide more global warming, and we're all going to die from global warming. So they honestly believe it's a matter of life and death that we should be stopped from eating meat. There was a law that almost passed last year in California that would have banned the Bible because it offended people in the LGBT community. There are countries all over the West right now that are making it against the law to use gender pronouns that are not consistent with what somebody wants their gender pronoun to be. Basically compelling speech and telling people that you can be imprisoned or sued because of what you say or what you think, or because you don't go along with what the crowd says you need to go along with right now. So I don't want kids to smoke. I don't want kids to have special concealed things, and it's irritating. And we should, as parents, I think we should really work on stopping that. But I really think it's a dangerous, slippery slope to start doling out our freedoms and saying, just take this freedom and just take that freedom and just take that freedom because it's freedoms I don't care about. But what happens when they come after your Bible next year, or they come after your meat the year after that, or they come after my soda, which I sadly am addicted to and love? By the way, I want to quit drinking sodas. I've made a few good stabs at it, but I sure don't want the government to tell me I have to. So that's why I'm going to vote no, and I get all the reasons for doing it. I think everybody comes at this from a point of love and a point of caring about the community. It's just a difference of opinion, and to me, freedom is pretty important.
Well, first of all, I'm not advocating banning the Bible or any of those other things. Tobacco is actually the only legal product that when used as directed, it will kill you, and it can kill the people around you. It kills 450,000 people a year. Secondhand smoke kills about $41,000 a year. I'm talking about stopping the sale of devices that are specifically designed to trick the parents and the teachers to allow kids to use an extremely dangerous product. That's the only thing I'm talking about. So I'll leave it at that.
How does this ban solve the problem? That's what I'm trying to get my hands around.
Yeah, well, we had testimony that 70% of the sales to minors are local, are from local retailers. Actually, I don't think it's the vaping people are selling that. I think it's some of the other retailers that sell 10 or 12 of those different devices.
But if it's the retailer selling it, it's illegal to do so, and isn't the punishment the right course of action there rather than to ban the product, which takes
Well,
away the adults' rights?
Clearly, what we're doing now isn't working. Now, we can double the number of stings. I know that the NMA influenced the state law when they said, it's okay for the kid on the state level and the state stings. The kid can lie and say, the kid can't lie. He can in real life, when a kid comes in to buy a tobacco product, the kid says he'll say, of course I'm 21. But because the influence from the NMA, when the law was designed at the state, they're not allowed to lie. So that way they know that the kid is a sting operator. If they say, "Are you 21?" and he says, "No, I'm not 21," they don't sell it to him. So that's been my experience over the last 15 years. But anyway, we have a motion.
I don't want to dampen debate, but is there any more information that we don't have, or?
I don't think so.
Okay, let's vote on it. There's a motion and a second on the table.
And remind, this is to come back with a possible, just the one of the options would be a 6-month sunset clause till the FDA steps in.
All right, everybody understand? Yep. Okay, motion on the table with a second, please vote.
Motion fails by a 3-2 vote with Ortiz, Goebel, and Wells voting no. McClellan, Kendrick voting yes.
How would the council like 5 minutes to take care of whatever they have to take care of? We're going to take a short break. We'll come back in about 5 minutes to continue with the meeting. Thank you.
Some other basic cleanup language that you see throughout, and then the changes to penalties, which I'll enumerate right now. So this table shows what the current policy is and what the recommended policy based on the City Council direction from the last meeting. The current policy for a first-time violator within a 5-year period is a 30-day suspension, or the retailer can opt to pay a $1,000 fine. The new recommended policy change is no suspension, but with an automatic $2,500 fine. For the second violation, which would be in a 3-year period, not a 5-year period, so it actually is a benefit to the retailer. It reduces 2 years out of that consideration time, would be an automatic 90-day suspension. Currently, it's an automatic 90-day suspension with a $1,000 fine if that second violation occurred within 1 year of the first violation. So if 3 years later in that 5-year period, someone is found selling tobacco to a minor or to an underage individual, they would automatically receive the 90-day suspension, but the $1,000 fine would not kick in because it did not happen within that first year of the first infraction. So council gave direction to staff to implement a reduced suspension from 90 to 30 days, but an automatic $2,500 fine, regardless of when that occurred, whether it was the first year or within that 3-year window. The third-year suspension, currently there's a 1-year suspension after a third violation and a $1,000 fine, again, if it's within the first year of the first violation. It's been modified to a 60-day suspension with, again, a $2,500 fine. And then, like the current program, the fourth violation is a revocation of license, and we've added the ability to charge a $2,500 fine during that period of time as well. I should note that the ordinance also specifically states that if there is a violation, that the city has the ability to conduct 2 additional compliance checks within the next year after that first violation has occurred. So after you hear testimony from the public and have a discussion, staff would recommend that you introduce the ordinance, and then we would request that the city clerk recite the title of the ordinance and direct that the second reading occur on December 10th, 2019. During the discussion, I'll leave this up unless there's other topics you want to talk about.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
Yes, sir. We have 13 speakers.
Wow. Okay.
The first one is Julie Elkins.
Thank you. As she said, my name is Julie Elkins, and I am a resident of El Cajon, a minister by vocation. I am a mom and a wife and a grandma of 2 beautiful, I'm sure everyone says that, children, but I'm also a legislative ambassador for the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, the advocacy affiliate of American Cancer Society. I'm here to say that I thank you for working on proposing stronger tobacco retail licensing policies that the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network supports to keep illegal sales to minors down. We urge you to vote yes on the proposed ordinance. As you were talking about in the last section, I am concerned that the flavored tobacco products are starting our kids on a road to a lifetime of addiction. Menthol, fruit, and candy-flavored tobacco products are a key part of the tobacco industry's strategy to bait youth to becoming tomorrow's addicts. So they sell things such as cotton candy. There's not a lot of adults that want cotton candy tobacco, or Lucky Charms flavor. It doesn't work really well for adults. When you develop a policy to address the epidemic of youth electronic cigarette use, regulate all flavors and all tobacco products. Please do not exempt any flavored tobacco products. Please do not, that's right. And I would ask that you have always led the county in strong tobacco retail laws, and I hope you continue that trend and adopt with it flavored tobacco product restrictions and include them in your strengthened tobacco retail license. I know that's not part of this one, but I would like to encourage you to continue to discuss that possibility of looking into that. I am a cancer survivor, and Councilman Kendrick, I really am sorry for your loss of your sister. Cancer is horrible. I was also a youth minister for 14 years, and I saw that when kids were coming to smoke, it used to be cool, and then it stopped being cool. And then electronic devices started coming, and it started becoming cool again, and with flavored products. And cancer is not cool. There's nothing cool about cancer. And I really, really can ask you to continue to work on stronger and more restrictive policies on tobacco and other tobacco products. Thank you. Do you have any
questions? All right, thank you very much. Good luck making your next meeting.
Thank you so much.
Molly Sylvester.
Hey, Molly.
Hi, everybody. It's me again, Molly Sylvester. So as a member of CSV, I'm a new face, and we are a chapter of the NMA. And I can assure you that I will do whatever it takes to stop these retailers in this area from selling to underage. I'm on a mission, and whatever that looks like, I'll make it happen, whatever power that I have to do that. We are in favor of this. We were here when this was talked about. The one thing that we were asking that maybe you could possibly consider as a first offense that if the employee and all employees and owner of that store be required to go to a state certified tobacco class that teaches them how to check IDs appropriately, how to turn away underage sales, and how to spot straw man sales and how to turn them away appropriately. That if they were to get in compliance with that and pay for that training and require all their employees, including themselves, to have that licensing or that certificate in place, that possibly you could give some sort of a, I don't know, what do you want to call it, refund or, of $500 or $1,000 back, like if you do this program, and all of your employees are certified, then we understand that you're more serious about that. But that is part of our program, that to be a member of our program, you have to be certified. Go to that class, that state certification. So this would obviously occur to non-members. Okay?
Okay, questions?
Molly, again, thank you for coming. Are you saying that all members of the NMA have to have this certification?
That is part of our commitment to combat youth access, is to require all of our members, the owners, and all their employees to go to a state certification program and have that certification in order to be employed. Yes, from what I understand, and I honestly haven't gotten my eyes on it, that there is actually already a state certification program in place. I personally did not know that until last week, so I have not done my due diligence to see it myself, but from what I understand, it's in place, and we'll figure out how to take the class and be a part of.
All right, thank you.
Raymond Mansour.
Thank you. Again, I'm Ramon Mansour, co-chairman of Communities for Safer Vaping. First, I'd like to say that I firmly support your decision in increasing penalties for retailers that sell to minors. Absolutely. This makes a lot of sense, and it holds retailers accountable. To answer, Kendrick, your question to Molly, so as far as state certification for the retail stores that are part of Communities for Safer Vaping. Now, all of our members have to join the NMA to be a part of Communities for Safer Vaping, but we're not requiring all retailers in the NMA to get state certified. But if you are a part of the chapter of Communities for Safer Vaping, that in order to complete that application and to be a part of this organization, that you would get a state certified program that helps you to identify identify fake IDs, train the employees. A lot of the times, it's not the owners that sell to underage. It's a lot of times it's minors. I'm sorry, it's the employees that sell to minors, and we, at least myself, I think the biggest part is training them to say no. A lot of times employees are just afraid to tell a customer no. They get a lot of angry customers, and it's a judgment thing, and I think they get nervous, and it's just a matter of training them that it's okay to say no, to require ID, and it's just a matter of training. And Mr. Goebel, you recommended. I first heard of the rebate program that you might consider on first offenders. That if they have an offense, if they somehow the business sold to a minor and they get a $2,500 penalty on their first offense, that we'd offer some sort of rebate program to incentivize the owner and employees to go get a state certified program for training. And I think this will be effective to really get their attention, especially if this program, I'm assuming, takes hours out of their time and their employees, and it would cost money, that it would really help in that training process to really get the focus of that store owner, of their employees, to pay attention, to take it more responsible approach when it comes to checking IDs and making sure that they do not sell to minors. And that's it. Communities for Safer Vaping is here as a tool for you guys. I'm telling you that the members here, the ones that are here that are joining Communities for Safer Vaping, we are here as a tool for you guys to stop minors, to stop minor access to smoking products. To
Any
tobacco.
questions?
Yeah, thank you for coming. How many members does the NMA have?
Right now, they've got about 700 members.
And how many in El Cajon would you guess? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, so.
Yeah, I don't have that figure.
And then how many members of the Communities for Safer Vaping, or how many for that organization?
Are members that have businesses in El Cajon?
Or members at all?
Oh, of the Neighborhood Marketing Association? I don't have that figure.
Of the Communities for Safer Vaping, how many members do you have?
Well, you have about 100 retailers in El Cajon that have a tobacco retailer program, and my estimation is about only 7 of them are smoke shops. None of them are vape shops. So the ones that would fall in the category is only going to get up to 7, because those are the only smoke shops that are in El Cajon, and those 7 are on board.
And most of the liquor stores sell vaping devices, don't they?
Most of the liquor stores do offer it. They don't have the selection, and they definitely don't have the numbers that the smoke shops have.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
James Mitchell.
Hello, James.
Hello once again, Mayor. My name is James Mitchell. I'm representing and speaking on behalf of the Executive Board of the NMA and the President. We are 100% in with you guys with the increasing of the fines. We do ask that, particularly on the first offense when a violation unfortunately may occur, that if the owner and the employees of that store were to receive state-certified training, that they would receive some type of rebate, either $500, $1,000. One of the things that we believe that it is imperative and important is these retailers that a mistake happens to be made to where an underage person purchases at their location, that they're taking the initiative because they do care and they want them and their employees to be educated on this subject. And we feel that this is a very imperative part of the education for them, and it would assist them. I do understand, it's not all about the money. We've heard you guys say that, and we've heard that from other communities. It's not about collecting fines. The important thing is about getting the message across to those retailers and ensuring that this doesn't occur. And that's about all I have to say. We definitely are on board with this.
Questions? Appreciate it.
Well,
Bob.
one thing, do you realize you're asking for a rebate, but at the same time it probably costs the city close to what the fines are to go through the process of getting to that point. So I'm not in favor of any rebates. They should be doing the certification anyway. It's their responsibility. And if an employee makes a mistake, they're not trained right, and that's the store owner's responsibility. When I was in business, if an employee made a mistake and I was penalized for it, I didn't get a rebate. That never happens. This could not happen in El Cajon as far as I'm concerned.
And if I may respond?
Sure, please.
Councilmember McClellan, I understand your position on that. I also want to point out that even with that rebate, the fine still would be increased on the first offense, that as opposed to what was here initially, as we could see. Like I said, I agree 100% that retailers and their employees need to be trained. That's why, as my last colleague Ramon had stated, that every member of Communities for Safer Vaping will be mandated to have this type of training. And Councilmember Kendrick had a question to him about how many liquor stores and all that. Our intention is to include other liquor stores, even though the vaping product isn't their primary products that they sell. We want to include any retailer that sells any type of vaping products.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
They should be getting a license if they so.
Giselle Brambilla. Shannon Cousins, Richard Hobart, Kelsey Edmondson, Jake Rubenstein, Chris Messick, Rami Gurgis, Samir Youssef. Dana Stevens is our last speaker.
Good.
Honorable Mayor and Council, thank you for hearing this item tonight. We come back to this topic that the retailers are the ones who are selling an age-restricted product. It should be their responsibility to do everything within their power not to sell to children or anyone under the age of 21, which is the law in California. And yet last year in El Cajon, 24% of your retailers sold to someone under the age of 21. This year, 18% of your retailers sold to someone who's under the age of 21. And we hear them talk about what wonderful plans they have not to sell to young people. Of the tobacco retailers, there are about 113 in El Cajon right now. Of them, all but the smoke shops, which in my day and age, we used to call head shops. They sell the little glass pipes that are, yes, indeed, and bongs that are, yes, indeed, used for marijuana and other drugs, not for tobacco, but they say it's for tobacco. So they could subvert California's law that prohibits the sale of drug paraphernalia. And they are also licensed in El Cajon currently, and there are about 7 of those. So what we have been finding is that with the $1,000 fine or 30-day suspension, this year we had 9 retailers appeal against that $1,000 fine. At a $2,500 fine, I'm going to guess that even more retailers will appeal the finding that they sold to a minor. I have invited most all of you to attend one of the tobacco retailer hearings. They take place in this room, and the next one will be actually next Monday, I believe, here in this room. And it will be a second offense for a tobacco retailer. It's actually a third offense, but the ALJ found that because your city attorney, staff attorney Barbara Luck, who does such a wonderful job, and Holly, who does such a wonderful job organizing these, but because Barbara did not relitigate the first sales to minors, they considered it a second, because some of those ALJs just don't want to suspend a license. So I worry that there's going to be more time spent in hearings. And what's entailed in those hearings is not just Barbara Luck and Holly Savage sitting here for that day with an ALJ that you are paying, but there's all the prep time. There's myself and my adult supervisor who sit here. We've spent 4 entire days in hearings, some of which have been continued and continued and continued. Meanwhile, we've had to change. I know my time is up. I just want to say thank you for trying to make these penalties stiffer. There is no state certification for tobacco retailers, but all of your alcohol retailers, which all but 7 are, and 2 of your cash and carry stores, all of them are supposed to be attending the certified training because they are alcohol retailers, and that training covers the sales to minors. So that's all I'm going to say, and I'm happy to answer questions. And I would welcome any of you to attend a hearing and see what we hear. It's not their fault. They can't be here the entire time. They have to hire staff. Well, we all hire staff. But it's a painful experience for the most part. Yes, sir.
Dana, it appears to me that the recommended violation change for the second and third violations are actually less severe in what's recommended than what we used to have, because of the there's now it goes down from on the second violation from 90-day suspension to 30-day suspension, and the third one it goes from 1 year to 60 days. So, could I get your thoughts on that?
Oh, I agree. I agree 100%. The tobacco retailer journals, their magazines, the trade journals, state that the average convenience store sells $80,000 worth of tobacco products every year.
80,000 or 800,000? 80,000.
I believe it was 80,000.
Okay.
That's still a lot of money. And when you think about a 30-day suspension is a whole lot more than $2,500.
Right. Okay, so so I'm right on this one. And we've actually made this ordinance weaker.
That's my interpretation, sir.
Okay. All right. Morgan, do you want to comment on that? Is that...
Yeah, I think that was the direction of council when we had this conversation previously. The trade-off is the first offense would no longer allow for an election to pay the fine or take the suspension. Also, the fines themselves have gone up, whatever that is, 2.5 times the amount to our maximum amount of our fine that we allow. I think that there was some not negotiation but reconciliation among council members that we could go with a lesser suspension, but we're going to increase the fines.
Steve was first and then Bob.
Am I understanding you're saying there is no state certification program for tobacco selling?
Correct. The state has a very extensive website with all of the training materials on that. And in the past, we have provided that to the city, but it's available. It was on the website for the city for the longest time. So those materials are available, and we've made them available to the retailers.
Do you offer any kind of a training course for this kind of a thing, or is it alcohol only?
No, the alcohol server training includes an extensive component on checking identification, asking the right questions. It's not just about swiping it through. We had one retailer at the last hearing that said they just found out that when the law changed in 2016 to be 21 years old, oops, their machine was never recalibrated to 21.
So is the certification dealing more with how to detect somebody under 21 or how not to sell alcohol to a minor? There's two key components. One is about not selling to serial inebriates or anyone who appears intoxicated, and the other is about ID checking and not selling to someone who's under 21, the same age for tobacco. So there's extensive element on recognizing appropriate IDs. We actually use a video that is provided by the DMV about ID checking and what to recognize in the IDs. It's not just about swiping it. It's your responsibility to check the ID. How long is this course that you teach?
It's a 4-hour course, and it's certified by the ABC. Starting in 2021, the ABC will have a requirement for all alcohol retailers to complete the training.
And what's the cost per person?
We charge $25. I think that there's other people that provide it. The range is from $25 to $35, $50.
What do you think of the proposal to say we will abate part of your first-time offense if you attend this course that you're offering, albeit that part of it is alcohol, but a lot of it is detection under 21. What's your thought on that proposal?
It depends on what you're talking about, abating a portion of their fee, like the cost for them to attend. I just think it's their responsibility. They're selling an age-controlled product.
I understand. Do you agree with the proposal to refund $500 to $1,000 in exchange for taking your course?
$1,000? No, sir. That's too much.
$500?
No.
They're spending $25 and a few hours of their time.
I understand. My question is, do you agree with $500 refund if they attend your course?
A refund out of the $2,500 fine?
Yes. I want to know your opinion.
I suppose I would support that if it was a higher suspension time.
Okay.
Well, I've always been told that ignorance of the law is no excuse and should not be compensated. And I wouldn't agree with that at all. I think that if they break the law, it's their responsibility to make sure that their employees are trained. And if they break the law, that's the price they have to pay. And I was going to ask staff, this first violation, and then they have two more stings that year. Each time they would break, or say if they did it on the second sting, they'd have to pay the $2,500 again, right?
That correct. That would constitute a second violation, so they would pay another $2,500 fine and then get the 30 days, receive the 30-day suspension.
Okay, and then being they did it the second time, they would have 2 more compliance checks within a year of that breaking of that second one.
That's correct.
Okay, good.
Phil, did you want to speak?
I had a question about these hearings that you're speaking about, and it sounds like there's a lot of convolution and gray area that comes up. Can you speak a little bit more about, I mean, what's the catalyst for the hearing to be convoluted? It seems to me if someone's caught in the act, it should be pretty clear cut. Can you speak to why it's not?
I believe it is pretty clear cut. I think there's a lot of pleading to the emotion of an administrative law judge that, I have to feed my family. This is how I make my money. I can't be there all the time. It's not my fault if an employee violates. That's kind of the pleading that occurs. And I personally have a hard time with that as a good excuse. But sometimes the administrative law judges are reluctant to bring down the hammer when they hear, this sad tale.
So then this would be a question for staff. Do we have any say over the leniency that the administrative law judge... Does my question make sense?
Yeah. And Councilmember Ortiz, I'll try to address it. I have not handled these appeal hearings, but I do have a post-mortem with Ms. Luck after each one of these, if I'm still around, because just recently one went all day. But there were, in the past, administrative law judges from the Office of Administrative Hearings who applied a state law versus our ordinance, that we argued with them that didn't apply, it wasn't applicable, yet they still put it in their orders. We have, as Ms. Stevens says, the story I get is that there is a lot of heart-wrenching testimony, and it's to the point of absurdity in a sense of how much is given and how long these hearings take, because they keep throwing the same things out there about this is going to destroy this business, and their attorneys are very adept at bringing this information out in the hearing process, and some of them, especially those that have had a second one, are hiring attorneys to be here for these hearings as well, which is their right. We do have to give them due process, so we do have to allow them the chance to tell their side of the story. One thing we've done with the revisions to this ordinance, though, is that we have added a section to state that the appeals, the hearing officer cannot take into consideration anything other than whether there was a violation. And we've firmed that up. There's no right. The hearing officer, for example, I'll read it, and it's in Section 833.090E. The administrative hearing officer shall not consider the appropriateness of the amount of the fine or whether the length of suspension of a license or revocation of the license creates a financial hardship on the tobacco retailer, nor shall the administrative hearing officer grant the applicant any stay of execution or delay of enforcement of a suspension or revocation sustained following the hearing. So we did have somebody, one of the administrative law judges, who used a state Administrative Adjudication Act law that person was used to using, that says we're going to suspend the enforcement of the suspension for a period of time, and if you're on good behavior, so to speak, you won't have to suffer the suspension. We've taken that away. We went on to add in subsection F, except as provided in subdivision F, in this subdivision F, the provisions of administrative adjudication for the state of California, and I spell it out where it's found in the government code, shall not apply to any administrative hearing under this chapter. The exceptions are stated in F. They're simply having to do with hearsay and evidentiary situations when you're taking testimony. We do allow hearsay, and we don't get bogged down in the intricacies of the evidence code. So we've tried in this new ordinance to narrow down the scope of what the administrative hearing officer would be able to consider, and hopefully that's going to make it easier for us to have a more simple approach to the appeals.
That's very informative. Thanks, Morgan. Because in my mind, if we're passing ordinances and they're not being applied the way we intend them to be applied, then what's the point of even passing an ordinance? So I appreciate your diligence in weeding out that little caveat, because that's ridiculous.
Bob?
Morgan, I was going to ask you a question. Do we have the ability, if somebody appeals, which we know they're guilty or they wouldn't be appealing, can we fine them $2,500 if they appeal in addition to the $2,500 for the violation?
No, we cannot. It's double jeopardy.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Gary?
Dana, could you tell us about some of the challenges you have because of the phone tree? And the experience that one of your sting people had?
Yes. So it's not unusual for the retailers to call one another if they suspect that you're up to something. We have young people that speak a multitude of languages that volunteer with us, and one of our young volunteers, a 19-year-old, could hear as soon as she walked in the store the retailer yelling on the phone, "Don't sell anything to anybody, they're out, they're coming after us." It happens, and we know that. So we also know that some of the people work in multiple stores. We've had a decoy walk into one store one day and then another store the next day, and the same guy was working and recognized him. So then we have to lay back a little bit to not taint the process. The other thing that the retailers question at the administrative hearings is the difference between the tobacco process and the ABC. With the ABC, law enforcement brings the young person back into the store to identify the clerk that sold to them. This ordinance does not require that, which I'm glad for. We are not law enforcement. We are compliance monitoring, and this is not a criminal proceeding the way that sales to a minor of alcohol is a criminal proceeding. And so the young person does not go back into the store with the adult to face the clerk when that occurs.
May I add something, Mayor, just briefly to follow up with what Ms. Stevens said. These decoy or youth surveys that occur over a period of time. They don't all occur on the same day. They don't have the staff to be able to conduct one with every 113 or 117 licenses. And we do get the complaint that at the time of the hearing, well, if I had a chance to check my videotape, I would know whether there was a violation or not. Well, that's not our problem, and we spread them out over time because we have to hit every one of them during each one of these rounds. But also, we don't tell them there's a violation, just like they might with the alcohol sales. because then they will get on the phone tree. And so there's a reason for us to delay notifying them of the violations. They complain that, they complain that the violation took too long. I don't know where that person is anymore. I can't talk to them and, find out if this is true or not. Well, the truth is going to be in the testimony of the youth decoy, or in most cases, if not all of them, the adult supervisor that was going into the store at the same time.
I'm going to make a proposal. I'm going to say for the first offense that we abate up to $500 of the fine if the owner, if all legal owners plus all employees attend this 4-hour course. And the reason why I'm proposing that is it's like traffic school. If you're unlucky enough to get a ticket from Officer Tim Mowers for speeding on Peach Street, let's say theoretically, you have to attend traffic school, or it goes as a point against your thing. So you take traffic school. That's really what society wants, is for you to be a better driver, not a point on your record. So we really want these people to be better informed about detecting under 21. And if 4 hours in a bowling alley in a class listening to some comedian is torture, then that's probably going to help somebody not do it again. $500 abatement of the $2,500 is an option for the owner and the staff. However, I'm going to increase the second offense from 30 to 60 days and the third offense from 60 to 120 days. That's my proposal.
Oh, well, let's before we make motions, let's.
Well, I'm not making a motion. I'm making a proposal for discussion.
Bill, can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I like that idea.
I'd be okay with that as well. You said 60 days for the second. Is that what you said, Steve?
60 for second and 120 for the third.
Compared to the 90 in year from the previous one. Right. But we're getting rid of that. Increasing the fine, but we're getting rid of that caveat where at the administrative hearing there was leniency. So, I mean, is that going to, the way we have the ordinance written, this is a question to staff, does that completely remove any option for there to be leniency or change of interpretation, or can the administrative judge always have the option to apply California state law in lieu of our city law? Does that make sense? Or did
I'm not sure I understand, but maybe I don't think that creates anything different for the judge, the administrative law judge. What you're saying is, the proposal is we have no suspension. The ordinance also says that you appeal only for violations 2, 3, and 4. We don't have a right to appeal the first because there's no longer a suspension. It's simply a fine. And so if there is a reduction in that fine, I wouldn't call it abatement. I guess I would call it either a rebate or a refund. But if there's a reduction in that fine, if they meet what we call a condition subsequent, the conditions met after the fine has been imposed, it wouldn't be in front of the administrative law judge at all. Now, I think what was been discussed is the option is only for the first violation anyway, not for the second or third or fourth violations, allowing this kind of rebate or refund.
Guys, I guess my concern is I would like to limit the retailer's ability to not have what our ordinance is applied. That's my concern, and it sounds like that's happened in the past through the administrative law judge. And so whatever we can do, it sounds like you've already done it. So yeah. Yeah,
that's already included in 833-090. I think I said so.
I got a different idea. How about on the first violation, they have $2,500 and a 30-day suspension. If they appeal, they still have the 30-day suspension. If they don't appeal, the 30-day suspension goes away. So that would save a lot of time and energy.
I think we would be denying them their due process. It's that right, Counselor?
Yeah, I suspect that we'd have a lawsuit saying that's a facially invalid ordinance, and we'd have nothing on the books at that point.
Well, how about just adding the 30-day suspension on the on the first time anyway, which we have now.
Gentlemen, may I remind you that we had worked all this out at the last meeting. I think that what we worked out deserves the right to go out and be tried. If it fails, then we can always move more towards punishment. But there does have to be a point where punishment is too severe, right? You wouldn't want to imprison people for selling to minors. You wouldn't want to give them a $75,000 fine. To me, we're going 2.5 times what the fine was, and we talked about this all last week or 2 weeks ago. I implore you to keep it the way we had it. Mr. Goebel, if you wanted to add that caveat about the rebate if they go to the class, I wasn't going to ask for that. But I'm not opposed to it. That would be my suggestion. Of course, the council can do whatever it wants to do.
Well, I'm going to make a motion to modify staff's recommendation to provide an option for a $500 rebate if all legal owners plus employees attend, I don't know the name of it, the course, for additional training. I'm going to make a motion to modify the second offense from 30 days to 60 days and to modify the third offense from 60 days to 120 days. I think that is a lot less than what it is currently, so it's a reduction, it's a weakening. But if somebody doesn't pay attention to selling cigarettes to minors, they need to get our attention.
Mr. Goebel, could I ask for some clarification in that motion? It would be helpful to have a time period by which you would want that training to be completed.
Within 180 days.
Yes.
Okay. There's, as we're crafting this ordinance, there's one other question I have. And by the way, Steve, I like your idea. On the first one, it says recommended ordinance for the first time is, it says 30-day suspension, $2,500 fine, and up to 2 compliance checks. I would like to say get rid of the up to, and we are required to do 2 compliance checks. Is that workable?
The problem is, what if CASA doesn't have the capacity to do
okay.
so? It gives us some flexibility there.
All right. I understand. Okay, then I'm going to second Steve's motion.
Before we vote, I would just like to say that I think this is draconian. I think it's way heavy-handed and over the top. I don't want them to sell to minors. I don't think they're going to try to sell to minors. I think there's going to be circumstances where mistakes are made and people lose their business because we have gone way over the top because we're targeting one business, a legal business, that we don't like. And that's the problem with sin tax. It's always the problem with sin tax is that it's easy to pick on something that you don't like. But there are other people that are making their living by selling tobacco to people that want to buy tobacco. None of us want to buy tobacco, but there are lots and lots of folks who do. And I think we have to be somewhat even-handed. And we made it, we all agreed 2 weeks ago. I don't know why it's changing now. It seems like our agreement should stand, and we should see whether or not it fails. If it fails, then we've got plenty of time to come back and make it harder. So I would encourage you to vote no on that. But there's been a motion and a second.
Yeah, well, my response to that is we made an agreement about 15 years ago when I was on the city council that we would do the current part, and we're doing something that's actually less now. And what we did before wasn't strong enough because we got all these people selling tobacco to kids, and it's going to kill half the people they sell it to. That's what the CDC says. So that's, that's a pretty good reason to make it severe. And it's less severe now on the new proposal than it was on the old proposal. So
just to clarify, it's what you're talking about now with the increased suspension times is significantly more severe than anything we've ever seen.
But it's less
significantly more severe.
It's less than the current policy.
It's less than the current, Bill.
No, it's not. You're talking about a 30-day suspension on the first time plus $2,500.
Before it was a 90-day suspension. Now we're only talking 60-day. And before it was a year, now we're talking half of that. So
I see what you're saying.
So I still think recommending something less severe on a ordinance that didn't work.
I stand corrected. I mean, you're adding the fine. You're doing the fines 2.5 times. I mean, at that point, I would just stay with the current situation rather than make it harder. I'm talking to these tobacco retailers out there, and some of them deserve what they get, but some of them don't. And this is a serious hardship for some of these people. I'm not saying let them off. I'm not saying have nothing. I'm just saying that we have to. It's very easy to sit up here and say, "Oh yeah, well, I'm going to destroy half of your business." Yeah, I could do that. And that happens all the time in government. People scream and cry about it because when government comes in and tells you that you no longer have the ability to make a living, it's easy for everybody else except the people that it affects. But the people it affects hard. And I stand corrected on the I was comparing it to the deal that we had made last 2 weeks ago, not the original one.
And I think why it's a weaker than the existing. If you feel that the new one would put people out of business, the existing one would do that and more
faster.
And
because I don't think they're going to go back past that first violation. I think they're going to get their $2,500 fine and they're going to learn their lesson.
That's exactly what wants to happen.
But you're also adding a 30-day suspension
for the second offense.
I thought you wanted that for the first one.
No.
Can you go over it again?
Sure.
Because I'm
first offense, no suspension, $2,500 fine, $500 from CASA.
Fair enough.
Second offense, 60-day suspension, $2,500 fine, back to the CASA class within 180 days. 60-day suspension, $2,500 fine. Third is 120-day suspension, $2,500, and the fourth is revocation. I think that is a strong thing, but I think having been a small business owner myself, I know when staff just doesn't do it right. And you don't want to be put out of business because somebody else didn't hold the same standards you did for whatever reason. So that's why I am weakening it, but still making it strong.
I'm still going to vote against it because I think we entered it into a public trust 2 weeks ago, and I want to keep my word on that. But I appreciate you clarifying it. It's not as draconian as I thought it was, and I'll take the word back. So.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a clarification. So, Mr. Goebel, you suggested 180 days, and I know I asked you that, and you came up with that on the fly. As we're sitting here thinking about that and the implementation of that, it may impede the ability to do the first and second compliance checks. So,
90 days.
180 days may be a little too long. That's 6 months. If it were 4 months, that may be easier for us to squeeze that in.
How about 90 days?
We'd be okay with 90 days too. I think we just want to make sure that it is enough time for them to get everybody through the program.
How often is the course offered?
They do the course for a store whenever they want it.
So it's on demand.
Yeah, to some degree. We do a monthly training up at BA House that they'd be welcome to join.
Okay.
And we do that every month.
Every month. Okay. Mm-hmm. So 90 days. I would amend my motion to say 90 days.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. On
we need a second. We need a second on my amended motion.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes, I do. Right. Did anybody else need to speak before we vote? Okay. Please vote.
Motion carries by a 4-1 vote with Mayor Wells voting no.
Democracy in action tonight. That's good. Good. It's interesting. All right. Let's move on. Item 17 is an adjustment to the cafeteria benefits for the mayor and council members, and I'll ask staff to tell us about this item.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, during the last fiscal year, the City Council approved new memorandums of understanding with all the employee groups. One of the negotiated items in that was to add $50 per month for the cafeteria plan. Because we do like to keep all the cafeteria plans uniform, staff's recommending that we increase the City Council's cafeteria plan by $50 a month as well. That would be effective January 1st. It would only apply to those that receive that benefit. And Ms. Megan Blake is here to answer any other specific questions that you may have.
Any questions for staff? All right. Are there any speaker cards on this item? Megan, I think we're okay.
No card, sir.
All right. Then, staff, it seems pretty simple and housekeeping.
Move adoption.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Okay, there are no commissioner reports today. Item 18 is my activities report, which is as reported. There is no legislative report. Item 20 is regarding street racing and excessive speeding. So one of the things that I've noticed as a problem, and actually this is kind of an interesting thing because I've been on council now since 2008, and it seems like we have really done a good job of taking care of most of the glaring problems, at least to the point that we can affect that kind of change. One of the things that I have personally been irritated by, and a lot of people coming up to me talking to me about, is the reckless driving that we see on the streets. I don't know if El Cajon is worse than other areas. It seems to me it is. Maybe it's just because I'm here a lot. But I see so many incidents of unbelievably dangerous, reckless driving, people racing on the streets. And I don't think we have to just sit and take it. Certainly, we're limited in what we can do. There are a lot of people say, oh, you should impound people's cars. You can't do that, or at least not for a long period of time. But I think that one of the things that we could do is ask our police department to up their enforcement about this, and we can also ask the public to get engaged in the process. And what I'm suggesting is an education program that would give people a phone number to call when they see street racing happening in their neighborhoods. If they catch the license plate number, they can give that. If they know it's their neighbor that's doing it or somebody they see, they can say that as well. Not that we're going to be able to eradicate it or put people in jail as a result, but at least the police can go out and talk to them and tell them that we're aware of what's happening. And that's my proposal.
I think it's a great idea. I think there's potentially grant funding out there that might fund something like this. I think it has to come through enforcement. Neighbors spying on neighbors is a little iron curtain to me.
I don't like it either. I'm thinking mostly it's going to be you're at the stoplight, somebody blows through the red light in front of you, you see their license plate, you jot it down, and you call the police and say, hey, somebody almost got killed here.
Yeah, I agree. But I support, you've got a great idea.
Yeah, I would agree with it too. There was an incident in El Cajon. It was one of my friends who's actually a school teacher here in El Cajon, her brother, their car got wrecked. They reached out to me, and they felt at a loss. They were out of work. They were in the hospital, bills. So it's getting dangerous. Someone could have been killed. So, yeah, thank you for bringing this up, Bill.
Staff, what do you need from us as far as it?
I think just the direction. And the direction, as we hear it, is that you're giving us the authority to go out and do some stuff. We'll do it within our budget purview. We'll come back and report how it went. I think it gives us a chance to look at this from a little bit of a fresh perspective and maybe come up with some different ideas. We've actually been in discussions with some potential partners with some grant funding to maybe help us do some things, and we would bring those types of big ideas back to the city council, but this gives us a platform to do that.
Super. Well, we appreciate your help on this. Do we need to vote on this, or have you got the direction you need?
I'm fine with the direction from what
super.
we just heard.
All right. Then we're back at activity reports. Councilmember Kendrick.
As reported.
Councilmember McClellan.
As reported.
Deputy Mayor Steve Goebel.
As reported.
Councilmember Phil Ortiz.
One amendment on the 5th. I had a phone conversation with Republic Services.
There are no joint councilmember reports. There are general information items for discussion. There are no first readings of ordinances and no second readings today. We are at closed session, and our city attorney will recite the title and lead us in the closed session.
Mr. Mayor, before we do that, as you recall, we added
yes.
another agenda item. So if we could handle that at this time, and then we would call for the closed session.
Okay. Tell us about the agenda item and what we need to do.
Mr. Epperson will take this portion.
So, very all of a sudden type of thing happened. This morning we come into work and we get a message that our current sewer billing company is going out of business. And so this is a company that handles the software that kind of keeps track of all of our customers and what they owe and what they've said when they call in. They also have a customer service number. They have a call center. They also handle the bill printing and the bill mailing. And so not Bill Wells mailing, but just the bill that you receive, your invoice. And so we are kind of at a loss. We're trying to figure out what our options are. But we know that as of November 30th, we don't have a service anymore. The company has offered to team up with another company, and staff was meeting with the owner of our current company and the owner of the new company, who is offering some type of handover or some type of whatever, and the only thing I heard was that it's a lot more expensive. So we have to dig into that more tomorrow. This is all very fresh. But in the meantime, what we're asking for is some ability to utilize the funds that we have within the current budget. Obviously, there's some money that was appropriated to the current company that will no longer be needed because they're leaving town. And we want to be able to utilize those funds, and so we're asking that we waive the bidding requirements and authorize the city manager to execute agreements in order to maintain sewer billing services within the city of El Cajon, not to exceed the amount authorized in this fiscal year, which was $608,210, of which some of it's already been spent. But we don't want to go over that, but we want the authority for the city manager to execute those contracts so that we do not disrupt service, possibly in the short term, and we will look for options for the long term as well.
We remember the nightmare of getting behind on sewer billing before.
That's what we want to avoid, sir.
We want to not go there again. Questions, council?
Are there any remedies for this? Sounds like a breach of contract in a sense. Are there any remedies available?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at the agreement. It was done back in 2012, I think, and it's been amended 4 times. But I'll take a look at it, obviously, and we'll see my guess is we're looking at bankruptcy court.
Generally, bankruptcy protection protects them from those kind of remedies, right?
Yes and no. It depends on whether it's a reorganization or something of that nature.
And it's our intention this is a short-term remedy and then open up a new for bid, a new person or a new company in the future. Is that the intention, or you just got to figure out what's going to come?
What we'd like to do is get something in place immediate, because there's some immediacy, and then whatever contracts I sign, if they're above my signing authority, we would bring that back to the city council for ratification. So there's full transparency of the purchase agreement. What we hope to do at the January 14th meeting is to bring forward a range of options for the city council to consider. One of those options may be to go out to do a bid or an RFP, but there may be some other options as well.
All right. I assume we don't have any cards on this.
No card, sir.
I do want to say to the general public, since it was not on the agenda, if anybody would like to come speak on it, you're welcome to come speak on this item. Okay. Then we will bring it to council for a vote. So the ask is just that the city manager have the authority to renegotiate at least a temporary contract so we don't get behind in the billing.
And Mr. Mayor, that's through the form of a resolution that's attached with the memo at the dais.
So anybody have a motion?
Motion to adopt the bidding process of single bidder.
Is that appropriate?
Just you can move to adopt the proposed resolution.
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right, Bob says to move to adopt the proposed resolution.
Second.
And Gary seconds it. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, Morgan, if you could then lead us into closed session.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and before I'll announce the closed sessions, we do have a speaker card on each one of the closed sessions, one for each. Both of these are items 25 and 26 are closed sessions for conferences with the the real property negotiators for the city pursuant to section 5495 6.8 of the government code. The location of the property is 1001 West Bradley Avenue. The one closed session is to deal with negotiating price and terms for lease payments with Waste Management, Inc., and the other is to discuss the same terms, price and terms for the same property on behalf of Republic Services as the other party.
Could you call the speakers, please?
The speaker for item 25 is Christine Costa.
Christine, welcome.
Hi. I would just say good afternoon, but good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and staff. I come before you this evening regarding item 25 on your agenda today, regarding a property at 1001 West Bradley Avenue. As your current tenant at the property, just want to personally say thank you for the opportunity to lease the property for the last 24 years. And to be a long-time community partner of this great city for the past 40. We've been proud to call 1001 West Bradley our home for the past 24 years, and we appreciate the opportunity to negotiate a new lease with the city, which would allow us to continue calling El Cajon our home and supporting this great city for many years to come. So for today's closed session meeting, I'd like to respectfully request the opportunity to submit a few letters of support from some of our community partners. And with your permission, I'd like to give them to Angela so she can in turn provide them over to you all for the meeting.
City Attorney, is there any problem with that as far as closed session goes? No. Then please do, yes.
Okay. Thanks in advance.
And next
speaker for item 26 is Michael Simonson.
Hi, Michael. Welcome.
Good evening. Honorable Mayor, council members, Mr. City Manager, and staff. My name is Michael Simonson. I'm with Republic Services. As most of you know, Republic Services is a national leader in the industry of providing waste and recycling, collection, processing, and disposal across the country in 40 states. Here locally, we are currently the City of Chula Vista's franchise hauler, and we also operate in the City of San Diego and the county unincorporated areas of the county. In addition to our hauling operations here in the county, we also own and operate the Sycamore landfill located at Mass Boulevard and Highway 52, and the Otay landfill in Chula Vista, as well as the Palomar transfer station in the city of Carlsbad. Today, when you go into closed session, you will have the opportunity to see a very thoughtful and robust proposal that we have submitted to the city regarding the city-owned property at 1001 West Bradley Avenue. I simply just wanted to encourage you to look closely at our proposal and understand that we are committed to working in partnership with the city to maximize the value of that property, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Let me see if there's any questions. No? All right, appreciate it. I'd like to make a motion then to go to closed session.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back hopefully not too long, and we'll continue the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session on two matters, both involving real property negotiations for the same property, 1001 West Bradley Avenue, and the other parties were, in one case, Waste Management, Inc., and the other were Public Services. City Council has agreed to finalize negotiations with Waste Management, Inc. for the lease of that property, given directions to its negotiators to do so, and that makes the decision on item 26 moot, renders it moot because there will be no decision to lease with them any longer.
Thank you, Morgan. This brings us to adjournment. The regular joint meeting of the Elkhorn City Council, Elkhorn Housing Authority, held this 12th day of November 2019, is adjourned until December 10th, 2019 at 3 o'clock p.m.